Okay, so we're going to get started. This actually is one of my favorite topics. This is about the most important decision law students, attorneys make with their careers, and is kind of a guide to them. This particular topic is applicable to anybody at any stage of your career and will help you if you think there's things you've done poorly in the past that you could have done differently, and will also help you in the future to make better decisions. And this kind of information, by the way, I will tell you is just gold, because if you are watching this webinar live, you'll have the opportunity to answer questions about this when we're done. But the information here is what I've gathered. And imagine there's very few people like me. I work I start my day and give me 1 second. It is unmuted, yeah. I start my day very early, probably like at 4 a.m., and I do this till about 7 o'clock at night. And I've been, working in this business for 25 years, and this is kind of what I've learned by doing nothing but this. So it's not necessarily that I have some special skill or insights or anything, but I have been doing this a very long time and do nothing but this. And so I do feel like I can tell you how to avoid mistakes and the mistakes that people make, and can really help you, because I look at resumes all day, I talk to people all day, and I see these mistakes. If you're here for the first time, welcome to the webinar. These webinars can go, sometimes they go an hour, sometimes they go much longer. They can go, 4 hours or plus, which in reality sounds like a long time, but it's not. One of my mentors, Tony Robbins, used to get up and speak for 8 or 10 hours at a time, or even longer, without taking a break or anything. And one time he invited me to one of his events, and I was, I think, in the front row in this kind of VIP section, and that he got me a ticket for, and he'd started speaking like at 10 o'clock, and it was 1 a.m, and he hadn't stopped speaking, and he was still speaking, I thought, but what actually he'd done is he dimmed the lights and was making everyone do some sort of recitation, and then I realized that he actually wasn't on the stage and was recording. So this is certainly not going to be that long of a webinar, but they are long because these topics are very important. And I take them very seriously. So, and I hope you do too, because this is your career and your life. And honestly, just making one good decision can help you a lot. I was reading just the other day, and this is just an example of a really good decision. I was reading an article about Sam Bankman-Fried, the guy that had started FTX, and then also, but I was more interested in his parents, who were law professors at Stanford, and kind of how did they get embroiled in this whole thing, and it was some kind of subscription site, I think, that I had to go to buy this article. I don't remember which one it was, but I was very interested in learning about the parents. And what was interesting is the father was a tax attorney, a tax professor at Stanford, and Peter Thiel, who obviously founded PayPal and was a very important. He's also founded a lot of other companies that have done very well, but he's a multi-billionaire. Had taken his class, and Peter Thiel remembered learning one thing in there, and it was that something about how he could put all his stock in a IRA or something when he was at PayPal or something, and it ended up saving him well over $1 billion in taxes. And he just remembered that, 10 years later, after 15 years later, whatever it was, and made that one decision. So on this particular webinar, I hope that you get some insights like that can really change the course of your career, because one little piece of knowledge a lot of times can do a lot for you, and can be very, very helpful. So when you're an attorney inside of a law firm and you want to practice in a law firm, there's a lot of decisions, and these decisions can have, they're very important. And in my job, I see people make a lot of decisions that are very good. and that people are able to kind of come to a place in their career that might otherwise have been impossible. So people will come and make sometimes very, very good decisions and will be catapulted into massive success. But other times people make decisions that are very bad and often never recover from those decisions. And so that's some of the decisions I'm going to try to help you understand today. People make decisions based on imperfect knowledge. They make decisions without experts. They make decisions not thinking things through. They make decisions because they have preconceptions. They make decisions because they're afraid of what that decision will, how that decision will reflect on them. I mean, there's just all sorts of ways that people make decisions, and you really succeed or fail based on the quality of decisions. So I told you earlier that I have all this experience and I can see these bad decisions. There's a famous story that I like, and it's about someone walking into a building that had been, the floor had been creaking for years, and every time people would walk, no one could understand it. And they'd brought in all these people, and the people would tell them, "Oh, you need to rip up the whole floor and rebuild the foundation, do all these things." And so one day they brought someone in and to give them an estimate on doing all this work, and they said to him, he said, "Okay, let me, hear where the creaks are coming from or whatever, just, and then he took out a hammer and a nail, and he walked over to some area of the floor and banged the nail into the floor. And all of a sudden, these creaks that had been dealing with for years were stopped. And he gave the owner of the building a bill, and the bill was like I don't know, $501. And the guy said, "Why? How can you charge me $501? It was, it took you 30 seconds to fix this." And he said, "Well, the $1 for the nail and the $500 for knowing where to hit the nail." And so a lot of times these kind of decisions that you make with your career are like that. There's one little thing that can make a difference and change the course of everything. So this is an example of two types of attorneys. This is a successful attorney. Earlier this week, I was speaking to an attorney at average grades from a fourth-year law school who had become partner at a major American law firm through a series of brilliant decisions. And I run across people like this every day. Every day, I see resumes that come into BCG Attorney Search, and I'm amazed at how these people have sometimes, risen to the heights of success. And this particular person had started out at a small law firm after law school. They wrote all these articles and did presentations and different committees and things, and did everything he could to become an expert in his practice area and an expert networker. He was very nice to everyone that he met. Very, very nice and pleasing personality, and easy to get along with. He a lot of very successful partners and people that do well in this profession are not always the most academically intelligent, but they're very likable, and everyone tends to really think highly of them, and because they just make other people feel good about themselves as opposed to bad about themselves. And that's another characteristic. I just want to bring this one up real quickly because it's very important. So if you are working with people and peers, you have a choice. You can make them feel good about themselves, or you can make them feel badly about themselves. And so an example would be if you're holding a meeting and someone shows up late, and when they show up late, you say, "I can't believe you're late. I'm very upset. This is horrible. Like, what are you, and you make the person feel badly, and then you give them kind of a mean vibe and stuff. Well, that person is going to feel defensive and not be able to contribute and probably not like you. But if you're nice and you say, "Well, I'm glad you made it. We're all glad to see you," that person's actually going to feel good and contribute in the meeting and have a lot more to give. So making people feel good about themselves is something that people that are successful partners, it's people that bring in business, it's people that don't get fired, are able to make the people around them feel good about themselves. So this particular guy joined a law firm and was told, this major law firm on day one, that he would never be partner because he went to a bad law school, and then that was it. They said, we don't make people from this law school partner, and your grades aren't good. And but regardless, because of the things that he did right with his personality, he was eventually able to get a position with a major law firm. He never got discouraged by people that told him he couldn't do it. He simply worked harder than his peers. He kept writing, getting out there, meeting clients, and networking, and then eventually succeeded. And think about that. Your school doesn't matter. You have other skills. It's not just about your school. It's not just about the quality of firm you start out at. It's about other things as well. You can be the whole package. And this particular guy too, he stayed in peak physical and mental shape, and it gave him the energy to go forward. I had a very inspiring story I want to share with you, and it's one I hope you remember because it's very inspiring. So I took my father was nice enough to send me. I don't know, to why he did it, but he was nice. Sent me to Spain when I was in seventh grade, and there was a story. There was a teacher that was taking everyone to Spain, and he was from a high school that my father had gone to, and the high school was taking this big trip, and we're on the plane. And all of the people from the high school, there were like 20 or 30 of them, all gathered, and they're like, "We want to hear you tell this story again. We want to hear you tell this story again." And this particular guy, his name was I don't know, Professor Garcia or something. And they said, "We want to hear you tell the story. Want to hear you tell the story." And I guess he told it to them a bunch of times, and finally said, "Okay." And I was in the back of the plane, and people like come up. He's telling the story again. I was like, "All right." I was in seventh grade, and I went on a trip with all these high schoolers, which obviously wasn't good. Drinking and because you're going to discos at the age of 12. It's wow. Anyway, that was kind of an aside there. But so everyone wanted to hear him tell the story. So I was like, all right, I'll come up and hear him tell the story. So there was this huge group of people that gathered around and telling the story, and he told it very well. But this is the story, and it's not really that complex of a story. The story was he was in a Cuban prison, locked up for not being a communist or something, and he got in the prison, and everyone was around him was drinking and using drugs and being depressed and not showering and not shaving and not taking care of themselves and doing kind of all this bad behavior and just feeling horrible and being mean to the guards and everything. And he said, well, I had a choice, and this is the choice I made. The choice I made was I was going to get up every morning and do push-ups and sit-ups, and I was going to shave, and I was going to wash my clothes and look good every day, and I was going to take care of myself, and I was going to, for him, I was going to read the Bible and think positive thoughts. And the long story short is, one day someone came to visit him. And I think this is the story, and I could have it a little bit off. I've probably written about this somewhere, so I don't want to get the story right. But someone came to visit him, and during the visit, there was a shift change in the visiting room. So the guards shifted, and you could always tell the prisoners because they were all kind of looked one way. And because he looked so good, he just walked out of the prison with the person that was visiting him because he was completely looked like a normal, very healthy person visiting someone in prison. So the point is that keeping yourself, and then after that, he escaped on a boat to the U.S. and now he became a successful teacher in a school. So nice story because you can. That's what happens when you take care of yourself mentally and physically. You actually become a different person, and it can, in his case, instead of dying in a jail, or he got out and walked out. He just walked out. Incredible. So this particular attorney started out getting small clients. And then one day, he managed to get a huge project for a big client. He did everything to impress the client, did great work, and he kept getting more and more work. And within a few years later, he was a ninth-year associate, and he had a $2.5 million book of business. And this is a long time ago, so that would probably be like 4 now. And I don't know, and surrounded by other associate attorneys from top schools who could not believe they were working with an attorney who went to such a poor law school. He stood out as far more exceptional than any of them, and someone that got more business than any of them. And he may have made a bad decision going to such a poor law school, but he made up for it along the way by making outstanding decisions in terms of the way he managed his career. He made very good short and long-term decisions, and they changed the course of his career and his life. So think about that. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter who where you went to school. I mean, all these are major things that can help you. Another quick story. John Quinn, founder of Quinn Emanuel, a firm that does well over, $1 billion plus per year, just incredibly successful attorney. He started his career at Cravath, came out to Los Angeles, worked at a firm there, left. I don't know the circumstances under which he left, but he left, started a firm, couldn't get clients. So he started out cold calling people with 1 or 2 attorneys he was working with, cold calling companies that have been sued with slip and falls by employees and little things like that, and doing the absolute kind of bottom of the barrel work for companies that have business. And this is a guy that from Cravath that had worked in big firms and back then made a lot of money, but he didn't care. He went and started at the very bottom on his own, and he did the best work he could for them. And he said, I'll take your employment matters more seriously than anyone you can possibly imagine, and I'll give it everything I got. And he did, and he killed himself working on these slip and falls and things. And then after that, he said, after he'd done a couple of those for these same clients, he said, will you please let me try your hand at one big case, please. I'll let me try a real case, like a commercial litigation case. Again, this is someone that whose friends at that point are probably representing, working at Cravath, the biggest companies in the world, and all of a sudden he does get other cases and does a good job on that. So just because you start at the bottom, man, doesn't mean that you're in trouble. Imagine how people would be making fun of, if just say right now you're at a big company, you're at a big law firm, and you've gone to this big law school and you're working on these big matters. Imagine how people would be making fun of you if you were doing tiny, PI cases, or if you're a transactional attorney helping the local grocer negotiate a contract with a vegetable dealer. I mean, this is how people succeed, man. I mean, I'm sorry, they start out at the bottom and they do a good job and they keep getting promoted upwards. This is what you need to do. I mean, I don't know how else. Do you want to be John Quinn? Do you want to be, this is what these kind of people do. And they don't care where they've come from. They don't care if they have some great pedigree. They know that if you're going to do well, you need to start at the bottom and you need to work your way up and pay the price. And that's what they do. And very few people are like John Quinn or this attorney that went to a bad law school and then gave it his all and worked on improving his personality. You can't change where you went to law school. You can't change the mistakes you made, but you can change your personality. You can learn about getting business. You can come to webinars like this and improve yourself. These are all things you can do. You're in charge, not me. You have the ability to change yourself and to improve yourself. And that's what people do. You have the ability to be like John Quinn. You have the ability to take every client matter that you get as the most important freaking thing in the world, which is what someone like John Quinn did, and make sure that you give it everything you got because you want to get more work. You have the ability to get more work from every partner that assigns you work because You want to do the best possible job and get more work and rise and make them give you work. You have the ability to have a pleasing personality. You have the ability to associate with people that are positive and not negative. And you have the ability not to feel sorry for yourself and negative and down if you're not doing as well as you think you should be. The only way to get out of this is with a pleasing personality and doing well. Think about it. If someone is mean to you and makes you feel badly, do you want to be nice to them? Do you want to help them? No. So this is the guy that, that I'm talking about, that's 2.5 million, that had the confidence of qualities of confidence, perseverance, and resilience that makes him a model for the average attorney to follow. So that's it. I mean, this is all you need to do. It's very simple. So here's your least successful and typical attorney. Most attorneys join law firms with the attitude of what's in it for me? How much money are you going to pay me? How much is my bonus going to be? How good is this going to look on my resume? These are the things they sit around and they talk about. And then they say things like, oh, morale's low. My bonus was a little bit lower. The environment's toxic, which, by the way, people have said about every single law firm that's been around since the 1800s and is still around. They call it bad names, everything. They're leaving for more compensation because someone doesn't like them, they've made a mistake, or other important reasons. No, you don't leave a firm for that. I'm a recruiter, okay? I'm telling you, if you want to get me on the phone and talk to me, I will talk to almost everyone, not everyone I talk to, but the majority of them. No, you should not leave your big, high-paying, great job because you think it would be cool to move to a firm that does the exact same thing and work with different people. You're much better off trying to build yourself up and look good and impress people. I mean, no, people join. And what's in it for me? Come on. What's in it for you? If you're in a law firm, you're going to be doing, I read today that people that are born today are almost all of them are going to live to at least 100. Well, the president of the United States is over 80 and still, working. I mean, and he's our president. I mean, come on. How long do you think you're going to practice law? You're going to be practicing, if you're 25, you're going to be practicing law for another 60 plus, probably 70 years. And you're worried about a little bit of compensation at your current firm. What you're getting is training, and that's important. And so a lot of people too, they're like, oh, 29, 30 years old, decide to end their legal careers at a law firm where you can get business and have a self-sustaining business for the rest of your freaking life if you stay in a law firm, because that's what a law firm partner is. They're just I want you to understand this too. This is a very important distinction. If you work in a law firm and you become a partner, which everyone should, anybody listening to this call, by the end of it, you should know what you need to do. But anybody that becomes a partner inside of a law firm, you get business, you have a small business, a great small business. You're trained for several years while you're paid. How awesome is that? If you're a resident in a hospital, you're pretty much indentured servitude, but no, you're paid $200,000 plus $300,000 to be a frickin' to get trained inside of a law firm in what you're getting. How awesome is that? It couldn't be any better. It may be hard work. So is being a resident in a hospital. I mean, any profession that has rewards is going to train you hard. But the point is, I just want you to understand, you become a partner inside of a law firm, you get business. That's a business. And that all that law firm is doing is providing you support. So you bring in $1 million, you bring in $5 million a year, they pay you $2 million, and you give them, 40% of the money you're bringing in. Or it's just how it is. The law firm is basically it's like a McDonald's. They provide all the tools and support, like associates and offices and computers and a brand, and then you bring your work and they help you. It's a business. So when you become a partner, you have a business. So why wouldn't you stick with something where you can have a great business in the long run? I have no idea why people make this decision. It's not that it's going to take a lot of hours. There's people that do it that are mothers that work part-time. I mean, and they start doing it when they're in their, you can do it. But people go in-house, and then after their 4th or 5th years, because they're unhappy with the system inside of a law firm, the training and the opportunity, and then they decide they're going to likely, go in-house and have 5 in-house jobs. And most in-house jobs people do not stick with them. The typical resume of someone that goes in-house is like, I'm at this law firm, maybe they go to another law firm, then they go in-house, and it's like boom, 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 like just job after job after job after job in-house. And each in-house job you get is much harder to get than the last, most times. Not for everyone, but for a lot, because companies go out of business, they downsize, they're political minefields compared to law firms. Every CEO wants a different legal team. Legal team is a expense, not a there's so many reasons why in-house is dangerous. I could go on and on and on, but it's the most dangerous career decision you could possibly make. And again, I do not care. I have plenty of candidates. I'm not convincing you to work with BCG. I'm not trying to convince you. I don't care what you do. It's up to you, man. I mean, but the point is that you go in-house and you're most of the time are going to be in big trouble. And not always, but a lot of times. And again, I've seen some extremely successful in-house careers, people that go in-house and make, $100 million. I mean, I've seen it. I mean, 50 million, 30 million. I mean, it happens, and it happens enough that it's pretty awesome. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen. And not only that, but people go in-house and have very good careers in-house. I mean, but the problem is companies go out of business. I mean, almost every company that was on the first Fortune 500 50 plus years ago is no longer in business. So companies go out of business, and there's all sorts of problems. You often will have long periods of unemployment when you go in-house. The compensation is going to be relatively flat. The work not as interesting. A lot of times law firms, there's more supply than demand. People that are younger are more in demand and in-house, all that sort of things. A lot of attorneys now are joining law firms that will only allow them to work remotely. Dumb. I don't know what to say. But the reason for that is, how are you going to get FaceTime? How is the firm supposed to advance you if you don't know the important people? How are you going to get work? I mean, there's a whole bunch of other things. A lot of attorneys move to boutiques and other decisions they believe are going to ratchet down the pressure. Yet a lot of times it has the absolute opposite effect. You go to a boutique and you're going to have less support. You're going to have, wow. I don't know. There's less money coming in. There's more financial pressure. When work does come in, there's just a lot of people. This is a very common one, very common too among a lot of younger attorneys. Again, every generation has different positives and negatives. And I think so. This is not a criticism of all young attorneys, because there are criticisms of young attorneys for every generation, and there have been always. But a lot of people come into firms and they don't work as hard as their peers. They cut corners, meaning they see things that could be done well in assignments, whether it's proofing them or doing something important on your assignment or extra research or whatever. They'll upset supervisors, they'll upset secretaries, they'll get a bad name for themselves in the firm, they'll fail to develop business, so they'll just prioritize doing the minimum work, they'll quit jobs without having anything lined up. A lot of people, this is very common. Again, I'm not criticizing it. They'll fall into the trap of dealing with negative emotions and problems with food, drugs, liquor, and other things that are going to slowly eat away at their effectiveness and sometimes even their soul, and create problems. And why do I say this and bring this up? Because, I don't want to do an unhappy webinar, but wow. I should tell people this because it's not a happy subject. But I lived in I lived in a fraternity house when I was in college for 3 years. And, 1 year I lived there with like 12 or 13 guys, and I didn't, but these guys were drinking and stuff all the time. And, 3 of them that I know of committed suicide. It's just bad stuff. These stuff hurts you, and others will let themselves go mentally, physically, in other ways, and won't fix the issues that would help them improve their lives and careers. So you need to be in good shape and take care of yourself. Others fail to develop any plan to develop business. So if they join a major law firm and you can't develop and you don't develop business, that's bad too. A lot will fail to build more hours than their peers. You need to build, if you want to get ahead, you need to build hours. You need to stick out, you need to stand out. It's survival of the fittest. I mean, I don't understand what people don't, a lot of people don't understand. They do understand, but when you're in high school or you get the best grades and study the hardest and play the most sports and extracurricular, whatever, and you get into the best college, you get into college, you get the best grades and you get in the best law school. I mean, you go into law school, you get the best grades and do the best, you get in the best firm. Well, you need this, the game's not ending. It's not ending when you get a law firm. There's no reward. That's the ability. Getting into Harvard is meaningless, or getting into, Yale, whatever. I mean, it's meaningless. It's just an invitation to compete at a higher level. So great, you got that invitation. Now make the frickin' most of it, because you worked like crazy to get that opportunity. So now you have the opportunity to work harder and do even better, instead of like giving up because you reached the pinnacle of wow. This is what people do. And this is, frankly, what the majority of attorneys do. So, I'm not trying to upset you, but this is what happens. People don't get the job they want, so they don't put everything in. They don't rise, like John Quinn or anybody. People will not get into will get to a big firm, and then they'll decide that they're so special because they got this great job, and therefore they don't need to. This is what people do. But you may recognize aspects of yourself like that. And I'm trying to save your career right now. I'm trying to help you. And listen, no one inside of a law firm is going to tell you, your friends aren't going to tell you what you need to do to save your career. The law firm's not even going to tell you, because it's got to come from internally. You have to, they'll give you some advice if you're doing a bad job, but they're not going to save your career. And again, I'm just trying to tell you what you need to do, because I see it happen too often, and it's upsetting. That's why I get up at 4 a.m. and work 16 hours a day, because I'm trying to help you, and people need it. And you need to take this moment to realize that wherever you are in your career, from this day on, you need to make the decisions that are going to take you forward towards excellence and achievement, and someone that your family and your relatives and your kids and your spouse and your significant other can be proud of, instead of being like in this morass of like unhappiness and drugs and alcohol and food and depression and negativity. You need to move out of it. And if you make the wrong decisions, which is most attorneys make the wrong decisions and never have success in the practice of law. They're around you right now. They will stop by your office daily and tell you how bad things are at your firm and share gossip. This is what they do. This is the majority of attorneys working there. Even lots of partners in your own firm are like this, probably. It's how it is. If you want to be on the side of that, go for it, man. It's going to bring you down. And that's not what you need. And it's not to say that a law firm is for everyone, because I firmly believe there's certain people that should be law professors. There's certain people that should be in-house. There's certain people that should be doing alternative careers and salesmen and all sorts of things. And you do not belong practicing law. Just because you go to law school doesn't mean you should be an attorney. Just because you're working in a law firm doesn't mean you should be working in a law firm. You could be in the government. There's all sorts of places where you would be much better. I've been interacting recently with people in the State Department, a lot of who are lawyers. They have amazing careers, and they're so polished, and a lot of them. And, there's so many great careers you can do as a lawyer. So a law firm's not the everything. But if this is what you're doing, you better do the heckin' best you can at it. This is your opportunity. And the decisions you make with your career are going to really have a major impact on what happens to you in the long run. So let's talk about the 18 most important decisions you need to make in your career. Now, for those of you that are more senior, I'm going to pound through these early career decisions right now fairly quickly, just because, not very quickly, but I'm going to, and they will benefit you because they're going to set the stage for decisions you can make later. If you are in law school right now, or before law school, these will help you as well. And if you didn't go to a good law school, don't let this stuff discourage you. A lot of times what happens is I start talking about this stuff early on. And I think I can always see when I talk about unpleasant topics, when someone starts talking to me about an unpleasant topic, I just don't want to hear it. Like, I've had law firms hire me, and they're paying me, a lot of money. I mean, $4,000 an hour to talk to them about their law firm. And I'll get partners on the phone and I'll be like talking to them, and I'll be like 30 minutes in, and I'll be going, boom, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And they'll want to get off. They'll be like, okay, I've heard enough. I can't take it. And so I'm not trying to put you in that decision. And they literally will be like, okay, I mean, maybe we can, my phone's ringing. Oh, I just got, they just get scared. And it is scary. It is scary when you hear negative information, but the only way to change is to hear negative information. So the first decision, what law school will you attend? So law school choice is very important and has long-term consequences. This is a very sad story. There's a lot of them. I've got a lot of sad stories like this. But years ago, I was a law professor. I was a law professor. My first year after my clerkship, I started being a law professor right away because I wanted to beef up my resume and look good and impressive to potential clients. You should do everything you can to look good to potential clients and look good on your resume. Why wouldn't you? If I could be a law professor and my free time, or why wouldn't I? I mean, who wouldn't to look good? So I taught a class at a fourth-year law school, and one of my students graduated first in his class. He had gotten a perfect score nearly on his LSATs, and he was from a military family in, I believe, in Virginia somewhere. I think he'd gone to Virginia Tech or something. Didn't know anything about law schools. Was from a kind of a background. Again, in order to know the prestige level of law schools, you pretty much have to go to a really good college, and there's all sorts of things that are important, or your parents have to be from that background. So after he got his perfect score, he got a letter in the mail offering him a full ride to this law school without even applying, and money for living expenses and all this, and he couldn't believe it. And so he accepted the offer. He signed the letter that came in the mail. They just bought his they just bought his law school from the law school. The law school probably just bought his name from the admissions office. He accepted the offer and enrolled and never applied to any law school. This was a very bad decision. So this law school was ABA approved, but when he graduated, he wasn't able to get a position with a law firm of more than 10 people. And I met with him on several occasions, and he kept saying, well, why can't I get a job at Latham? Why can't I get a job at, and again, Latham actually is a really good firm. They would look at him. Latham, I have a lot of respect for, because they will look at people from all backgrounds if you do really well. They're just looking for exceptional people. So I shouldn't even say Latham. I don't even know if he's talking about Latham. But he was, why couldn't I get a job at, one of these top firms? And I was very clear with him. And again, Latham, maybe he would have been able to get a job when he was in school. But once you start and you don't do a summer associate job, it becomes very difficult to get in any top firm. But the point is, and again, that's a special type of firm that is very good and will open the doors to anyone that does well. But the point is that most top firms, you have to be a summer associate. So the point is, I met with this guy on several occasions. He wanted a job, and I would have to take him out to lunch and was mentoring him. And then one of them was because he wanted to get into these summer firms. The freaking guy started crying, and this kind of stuff hurts me. And he was a wow. Again, from a military family, so this was like a tough guy, and he was upset because I told him I can't place you in one of these top firms. His law school, and not having been a summer associate in a major firm, was a black mark on his record. So, by the way, if you doesn't matter where you go to law school, but if you want to be an attorney in a law firm, you do need to be a summer associate, at least after your second year. Even if you ask them, if I can do this for free, can I be a summer associate for free? Just having that is helpful because it shows you want to work in a law firm, and it's very difficult to get hired by a firm unless you do that. And if you're not getting a summer associate job, you need to apply to every firm in America. You need to do whatever the heck you can. I'm just telling you, it's important. But this guy, ended up doing kind of low budget insurance defense work. And today, he has a small firm with another attorney he went to law school with. Again, started crying because that was, why can't I get a job with a big firm when I'm, first in my class, this 150 plus or 200, 300, I don't know what it was, person law school. So going to a good law school, the best one you can get into, is important. Does it hold you back the rest of your career? Absolutely not, because you can still get business and build your way up, but it's definitely going to hurt you in the short run. The other thing too, just about law schools is, and this is just a quick aside, I don't want to waste a lot of time on this, but you always want to put yourself with the best group you possibly can, because you will rise to the expectations the sorts of people in that group have for each other. So people in your group are going into great jobs. The State Department's a great job. If great in-house jobs are going on to partnerships and other huge, bigger firms and things, that's probably a sign that that's a good group to be with. You join a firm like, Wachtell or something. Obviously, those people have big expectations. The next decision you make is how hard you're going to work in the law school and the grades you get. So depending on your first and second semester grades you get when you're in law school, the better you do, the better. I got to law school. I didn't know my first semester how important grades were. I thought, wow, I'm at this great law school. Look, everyone gets into a great firm from here. I'm set. And not true. Because if you want to start at the legal profession, you need to have the very best grades possible. So I'll just tell you myself. I'm not afraid to telegraph weakness. I did not have great first semester grades. I was blown away. I couldn't believe that anybody would have the audacity to give me a B in something, because I wasn't used to that. And the next semester, I got incredible grades. I just worked all the time. But the point is that, if you want to be at the top of the legal profession, you need to have the very best grades possible. And your grades are very important, especially your first semester grades, and even at the best law schools, they're important. I've seen people. It's unbelievable. I've seen people from the University of Chicago, Stanford, Michigan's other top schools with grades that put them at the bottom of their classes. And what happens is then they're like, oh, I'm going to, do on-campus interviewing. This is great. But unfortunately, they don't get anything when on-campus interviewing comes, because their grades look horrible compared to everybody else the same employers are interviewing. And the law firms just conclude this person doesn't have the smarts or the motivation to do well. We're going to hire someone that does. So you need to have the best grades you can. It's important. You can't mess around. This is not like part-time law students or things. I talked to a guy yesterday who was going to take the Nevada bar. 3 days, hadn't studied, went to Harvard for law school, did very well, but wants to also work in Nevada. He's in California, didn't study. I don't know that that's a good idea. Same thing with the bar. You need to study really hard for the bar. You can't take any of this stuff casually. You have never made it, by the way. This is another point. People think they made it when they got into a good college. There's people that went to top 5 colleges all over the place. That's all they'll tell you about, because that's the only thing they ever did, because when they got there, they didn't work hard. Same thing with law schools. And same thing with working in a big firm. The game never ends. You need to keep working hard. Every step is just an opportunity to work harder and harder. So just because you get into a good law school doesn't mean you don't have to work. And so these people get bad grades, never got a job in the summer with a firm, and they started out their firm careers at a major disadvantage and ended up in careers outside of law school. I was opening an office in New York, I was hiring more people for an office in New York a decade or so ago. And I was having people come in, because there's a lot of people that went to good law schools in New York that aren't working. And I was interviewing people from Chicago and all. I couldn't believe it. They had never gotten a job. Chicago. You see this with people even from Yale. It's if you don't work hard in law school, that's a problem, and it doesn't work. You can never stop. I could give you examples of this all day, but it doesn't matter where you go to law school. The game never ends. Some people graduate from a top law school and don't do well there, but they manage to get a job with some kind of decent firm, but not like the top firms. And then they get there and they don't think they have to work either. And then they leave after 6 months or a year, or they never, I know people that, I know one guy who graduated from Stanford and just was kind of like, yeah, whatever, got his first job, passed the bar, failed the bar twice. And then, and the firm still didn't fire him because he went to Stanford. And then eventually he wasn't taking his work seriously enough and they fired him. But you never can stop. How hard you will work to get a summer associate job with a major firm is important. Now, it doesn't have to be a major firm. Get a summer associate job at any firm. I don't care. But a lot of firms can't believe that on-campus interviewing is enough for them to get a job offer with a major firm. That's insane. Some schools don't have big on-campus interviewing. Others do. But if you don't get, and there may be things wrong with you. And again, some people interview well. Some people don't. Some people have to learn through more interviews how to interview well. Some people, I don't know. I mean, who cares? So if you're not getting a job at your law school, that just means that there's better people that they're interviewing. And that's what it is. So just because you're not you don't look the best at the dance, if you're at a great law school and don't get a job, doesn't mean that you wouldn't get an interview at some other firm. I mean, again, some people, I don't want to get into it, but, but at a lot of law schools, this is true. So even the students at the best law schools have trouble getting positions. I remember when I was in law school, there were some people that weren't getting jobs. And it was all because one guy was, I don't know, just very austere. He was dressed in black and had these like black, it's just, I don't know. It's just kind of this style. I guess you would call it new wave or something back. I don't know what it was. Another girl that dyed her hair purple, and another woman that had nose earrings that, so sometimes it's just because you're not getting it. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of that stuff, because right now that probably would be an advantage. But at the point back then, when you're talking decades ago and trying to work in a conservative law firm, that wasn't going over well. It would now. But the point, I don't think you have any problem, but people just sometimes don't get jobs. I had one guy I was working with, very sad. He went to UC Davis and was first in his class, managed to get a job at a law firm, and then decided that it was going to be in his best interest to stop shaving and grow his hair down to past his rear end and wear it like that. And that was not going over well when he wanted a lateral. Another guy that started crying with me. I hired a driver because he didn't like flying to drive him down from Palo Alto to my office in Los Angeles so I could meet with him. And I told him he had to cut his hair. And I thought he would rip my head off because he was so defensive of his hair. It's like, how many years it took me to grow this and didn't get a job. So the point is, like, there may be some things you're doing that are wrong and you can fix them. But, my advice to law students is you need to do whatever you can to get into the best firm you can during your second summer, even if it means applying to every firm in America. That's right. Every firm in America, because if you're a law student, you need to apply everywhere you can to get one of these positions. It doesn't mean emailing all the top law firms your resume, because you're just competing with people that are probably better than you if you're not getting a job right away. And I'm not saying better than you, but better grades, better school, better connections. It means doing whatever you can. You can send letters, whatever, but you need to try to get a job. And if you don't get a position in the summer after your second year, it's going to hurt you, because it's going to look like you either didn't try hard enough or you're not interested in working in a law firm. And again, this is your first test, man. Your first test is, what kind of lawyer are you? What can you do when you're representing yourself? Can you get yourself a position? That's what they're asking. And that's what it shows. If you can't, why would anybody in their right mind, if there are 35,000 law firms that I work with at BCG, 35,000, come on. If you can't get yourself a job in one of those, what's going on? Like you can't represent yourself effectively. That's a problem. So you need to be a good attorney. This is what it's about. It's about representing people and helping them out of problems. Well, you've got a problem. This is your first big problem. And all of your evidence is everything you've done up until this point in time. And if you don't do it, they're going to assume something's wrong with you. And you don't want a black mark on your record that's going to follow you throughout your career. Also, large law firms, like I said, are always going to be reluctant to hire you if you didn't get an associate at a law firm. They have their choice of who to hire. They get hundreds of applications. So they don't know what you're going to be like. If you go to a law firm in the summer and you get an offer, well, they assume that you met the test and you're law firm quality. If you don't get an offer, well, first of all, if you don't even do that, then you're too much of a risk. Why would you take a risk on someone that's a risk as opposed to not a risk if you have a choice of who to hire? Just these are basic things that people don't understand. Like, it's very simple. Like, if you were able to work at a law, first of all, if you want to work in a law firm, then that shows you want to work in a law firm by the fact that you did it. If you get an offer, that shows them that you're probably a good risk. And so these are just simple thoughts logic that applies. The force is how hard you're going to work when you get a summer job. I talked a lot last week about the importance of working hard in the summer associate job, but let me just be very clear. Not everyone gets offers at summer associate jobs. This summer, by the way, again, what I'm going to tell you right now is, if you are a law student watching this will save your career. This summer, there are not going to be a lot of offers. This is a bad economy. You might be in a class of 15 people and there might be one offer. You might be in a class of 50 people and there might be 2 offers. So what do? Well, what would you do if you were the law firm? The only thing they care about is they care about 2 things. They want to preserve their relationship with certain schools. But if everybody's not hiring summer associates after they hire them after the summer, then they don't care. I mean, law schools still welcome back. The most important thing they care about is, can they make money off you? So if you're in a summer associate class and everyone's going out and ordering lobster and acting like a big deal and having fun, and you're billing, you bill 60 hours or 80 hours a week, and everyone else is billing like 30 or 40, and you just work like crazy, well, you're going to be the one that gets the offer. I mean, who would you hire? One person that works twice as hard, or one person that thinks that getting a summer associate job is their opportunity to be rewarded for their success and how important they are? I mean, come on. Like, law firms are businesses. So you get a summer associate job, you work like there's no tomorrow, because that's the only way you're going to get an offer. And it's especially true this summer. So I just want you to make sure you understand it. It's like that in a law firm too. Who does the law firm keep around during a recession? Did they keep around the person that's working 80 hours a week and they're making a lot of money, or do they keep around the person that's working 30? What would you do? Would you keep around the person you're making 2.5 times as much money from, and is on partnership track, or would you keep around the person that's making you 2.5 times less? Come on, these are basic thoughts and something you need to understand. And I'm just trying to help you here. So not only if you don't get an interview, but if you do get a summer associate offer, you'll be in a position to interview with more prestigious firms. I saw lots of people at my law school that didn't get positioned. I see it every year. They work at some kind of little tiny firm over the summer, or mid-sized firm or whatever, and they feel badly, like, oh, I'm at a top they call it T14 school, and all these people got offers for the summer in big firms, and I only got an offer in this little firm. Oh, I'm so, I'm going to make, is my career over? This is literally what I get. These questions all the time. If I were to open my email, like questions to Harrison, this is a question I get all the time. I mean, I get it like at least once a week from people, because they feel, not once a week, but a lot. And it's not just from tier 14, it's from every law school. So people feel like if they don't get an offer, the best. Well, here's what happens. If you go to any firm and you do well, law firms, and you get an offer, you can go to a bigger firm. You can get an offer from a major New York or LA firm or whatever. If you get an offer, it doesn't matter the firm if you do well. So just don't give up. Don't give up. If you get great second semester grades, get the best first semester grades you can, and just keep working. But you need to work harder than your peers to get an offer, not make stupid mistakes, and be respectful, be likable. And if you don't get an offer, law firms are going to assume that there's something wrong with you because they receive so many applications. They're just going to hire someone who's a proven commodity, not you. People do not get offers a lot of times because they don't work hard. They get offers because they get drunk and do very stupid things. They get offers because they make passes at people, because they have affairs with other summers during the summer. No, don't do any of that. You have to be out of your mind. This is not your fun time to a summer associate job. This is this is the most serious test you'll ever have. So I don't know. I don't know what people are thinking. It's senseless. Wow. Okay, so early career decisions after law school. These are very important. And these decisions, by the way, start applying to, now we're kind of in the area where these decisions apply to everyone. So this is not just the decisions that apply to people that are to law students. But the first one is, what geographic market are you going to work in? And the city you choose to work in is unbelievably important. If you choose to work in a smaller market, you're going to have much fewer options if you make mistakes in your career, or you're unhappy with your law firm. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. So sometimes people go to work in small southern towns, or they go to work in, and again, you're going to rise to the level of your peers. And again, there's some really awesome firms in small southern towns. So I'm not poo-poohing it, and that could be for you. But the point is that if you, most attorneys early in their career will make a lot of mistakes because you're still learning how to get along with other attorneys. You're learning quality of work. So you need to be very careful about the market you choose. An example would be, great firm in Detroit is, I'm from Detroit, so I thought about working in Detroit. One of the best firms there, arguably the best, is a firm called Hahnemann Miller. Just a really cool place in a lot of respects. But and there's some other great firms there. You've got like Dickinson Wright and Miller Canfield and Plunkett Cooney, but if you want to go to like a really good firm, you go to Hahnemann Miller, and people from that firm, and I see it all the time, and they move from Hahnemann to big firms in New York, and you can do that there from that firm, and there's not a lot of firms in Detroit where you can do that, but that firm is well respected. But if you work in a small market, a lot of times like that, and you go to work in some of these other firms that I haven't mentioned, it becomes very difficult to move because it's just very difficult. Once you go to some small markets, you're in trouble, and there's fewer opportunities to move from other places, and they're often going to have a lot fewer opportunities than larger markets. Meaning, you're going to have to basically give what they, you're going to have to do what they want of you, and you're going to have to take it as it is, and it's going to be difficult. And you're also not going to be exposed to the biggest clients, and it's going to be harder to move. And there's just a lot of other problems. Now, is that always the case? No, because I move people from small markets to larger markets all the time. It just depends on your practice area. But the smaller market is going to generally expose you to less sophisticated matters, and so forth. So, again, I've given this example before. I was reading the biography of Michael Dell. He's, I think, in Austin. He's deciding to take his company public. Lots of good firms in Texas that might have been able to help him with that, but he goes to New York to hire Wachtell or someone to do all this. He doesn't stick around locally. So you want to work on, again, Texas is an awesome market. There's a lot of great things about Texas, but you want to get action with the biggest and most important things and be exposed to the most important matters. You're going to have to do it in a big city. So sometimes I say negative things about New York, but really, for especially transactional work, that's where you want to be. Same thing with Silicon Valley. And when you choose to work in a major city, you're definitely going to be exposed to larger clients, more specialized work. And in the majority of practice, the most sophisticated work from the largest clients goes to the large firms, and goes to the law firms in the largest cities. There was a big trade secret case. That's how Quinn Emanuel became famous. That they pitched. It was called General Motors versus Lopez. It was someone stealing plans from, Volkswagen, stealing plans from General Motors. And that was a huge case. General Motors did not hire a law firm in Detroit to fight the case. They hired a law firm in LA, which is Quinn Emanuel. They hired the law firm when it was like 20 attorneys. And the momentum they got from that case blew it up into a huge law firm, later on. So most of the time cases go to the biggest cases, the biggest matters go to law firms in the biggest cities. If any big, firm or big company in Michigan or Kansas or whatever has a big matter, it's going to go to firms in big cities most of the time. And having access to and again, not always, I'm not trying to poo-poo, these different markets here. I'm not saying that, but usually that's what happens. So a lot of times people want to work in smaller market for lifestyle reasons. However, it's going to chart a course for your career for the rest of your professional life, because you can become, in larger cities, you're going to be exposed to longer hours, which are going to make you more of an expert. You're going to be exposed to bigger matters, which is going to allow you to dive more deeply. into matters. You're going to be exposed to more sophisticated work. There's just a lot of reasons to it. And I'll briefly discuss this with you because it's such an important task. I don't want to waste too much time on it, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit. There's a book by Malcolm Gladwell that talks about this 10,000 hour rule, people working a long period of time becoming experts. I think he talks about the Beatles getting all this practice. He talks about professional athletes and other people. The more work you get, the better. Younger in your career, you should not be complaining about it because it's going to make you a better attorney. The more sophisticated clients you have, what happens is the more sophisticated clients will dive more deeply into matters. So if you're an attorney at a small firm, your objective is to do the work quickly and to get it out the door. If you're an attorney work at the biggest firms, the clients will pay anything for the most sophisticated and the deepest work, and having work done at a very deep level, because the idea is that the deeper people get into the work and the more detail, the more information that's uncovered, and then the more the big people with the money are likely to win. And it's true. Big firms win more often. For the judges, big firms trust their work more because they know. I mean, there's just so many advantages. I'm not poo-pooing smaller firms, but it does make a difference. The brand of the firm, the brand of all this stuff, because you get deeper in bigger cities. It's like that as well. There was a saying. It was kind of interesting. There in the first recession, which was the big one, it was like 2001. There was all this .com IPOs and everything, and then and there were New York firms that did them for these companies, and there were also firms in Silicon Valley that did them. And again, Silicon Valley comprises some of my most important clients. So I don't want to say bad things about Silicon Valley. I'm talking about 20 plus years ago. But what happened is a lot of these deals that were done improperly in Silicon Valley, because things were just not done at the same level of detail. But the firms in New York, most of them were done properly and held up. So the point is that, again, I'm not poo-pooing firms in Silicon Valley, but the ones that fell apart a lot of times, meaning that they were documented improperly and quickly, and and so the quality of firm can make a big difference in the training you get, and and again, a lot of these firms in Silicon Valley were younger at the time. I'm not saying that would happen now, but that's just kind of how it was. And again, there's other factors to consider about large cities. A lot of times, and I've talked about this in all the webinars, but a lot of people do not stick around in the law firm world. Your odds of making partner are much slimmer. Many times, attorneys who join law firms in smaller to mid-sized cities are much more likely to be practicing law 5 to 25 years out than their counterparts who join firms in larger markets. People in larger markets, in my opinion, die earlier. They have more psychological, substance abuse, all those sorts of problems. So this is not all positive. Most of the time, when they join big markets, especially in New York and places, Silicon Valley and places, a lot of them do not stick with the practice of law because they're so shell-shocked from the experience. Or they become very status conscious and they don't want to work there's all sorts of problems. And large firms in larger markets tend to have fewer opportunities for advancements because they're so much more competitive, and they scare off attorneys from law firms compared to those in smaller markets. But again, what if you were in law school or college and you thought, well, making partner looked like getting into either Stanford or some other great law school. Well, that's not to say that you apply and you don't get in. Well, that's not to say that you're not going to be successful in the practice of law. That's if you felt even confident enough to apply to Stanford when you were in college, then you're probably going to be a freaking awesome attorney. Just because you don't make partner at Skadden Arps or something. Come on. It's just, but this is what happens. And I see a lot of people in New York And it's very sad, drop out of law, because these are the best attorneys a lot of times because they're given so much work and pressure in these really fantastic environments that bring out very good legal skills. They often will drop out of the law firm world after working incredibly hard hours for years compared to attorneys in smaller markets who stick with it because the practice of law for them is bearable. So, that's kind of the option. I tell the story all the time. Clerked in when I clerked in a law for a federal judge in a place called Bay City, Michigan. There were a lot of young attorneys that were starting at firms around there in Midland and Bay City and Saginaw at the time. I was doing the clerkship. I met them. Years later, I looked them up. Most of them, almost all of them, were still at the same firms they were in when I was clerking, compared to when I started joining firms in LA. Everyone's at different firms. I mean, no one's stuck with it. They're all out of the practice of law. So there are some benefits to working in smaller markets, and it could save your career. And if you like practicing law, it could actually make you very happy. So again, I'm not poo-pooing smaller markets, but these geographic markets will often mean the difference between continuing to practice law or becoming a better attorney or being happy. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of calculuses. And this is the point where you're hopefully absorbing this knowledge and understanding what that means for your career. If you're in a large market right now, it doesn't mean you need to go in-house in New York City. Again, most people do not want to live in New York City their entire careers. They move. You can go to a smaller market. You can do all sorts of things. But just because you're in a big firm now doesn't mean you need to do the rest of your career. You're probably going to be happier in a small. I mean, these are all decisions that you need to make. The size firm you join has a lot to do with everything. So this is in most cases, but not always, going to determine the sophistication of the work you're exposed to, and the size of the clients you're working on, and the amount of the compensation you're capable of earning. So here's some rules to consider. If you move from a larger national type law firm to a smaller local firm, you're going to have a difficult time moving to a major law firm again. And the reason for that is simply because that's kind of, and I'm not criticizing this, and it's, but it's sort of a, when I analyze all the time, and I don't like sharing this kind of information because this is the kind of information that upsets people, and I don't like doing it, but I'm going to do it. But when I analyze a lot of people that I place, one of the common themes is, and I placed a lot of people, is there's an upward trajectory on their resume. So they're often, you can move downward. So there's nothing wrong with moving from a big firm to a smaller firm. That happens all the time. But if someone wants to move downward, and then downward again, it has to be framed in a way that it's looking like it's an upward thing. So, maybe they're doing corporate law at a huge firm, and then they move to a smaller firm to do corporate. And then the corporate, there's not quite their expertise. So they move to a smaller firm that has their expertise. That would be considered a move up. But if you can't frame the moves on your resume as a move up in some respect, like you're moving to a smaller firm to get more business, or you're doing something, then that's going to hurt you. You don't want to do that. You want to have everything framed in a way, that is going to make it look like you're moving upward. And the larger the law firm, the more likely you are to become a proficient at one aspect of your practice area and not be a generalist in your practice area. Have you ever seen, by the way, I mean, I hope you have, there are some really freaking awesome attorneys out there. And you can be exposed to these people a lot of times in law firms. I had a matter once. I remember when I was in this New York law firm, I was working on this tax matter for like 3 weeks and 4 weeks. I couldn't figure it out. I gave it to a couple of tax associates in the firm for like 2 or 3 days, and they worked on it and they couldn't figure it out. It was something to do with foreign taxation of real estate. I mean, it was very complex. I'd done everything I could. I couldn't figure it out. And then finally, we took it to this tax partner whose client it was, and he said, sure. He looked at it and we talked to him, and he couldn't come up with an answer. But he said, come back. I need to look at this and think about it for an hour, and come back and in an hour. So we came back in like 15 minutes because he called one of us and said, and he'd come up with a solution. Well, this is what really smart people do. I mean, I couldn't believe the solution. It was something where it just was like it cut through everything and just, I don't know, but there's some really freaking smart people out there. And these are the kind of people you can get exposed to when you work in a lot of big firms. And they work on very sophisticated work. And a big firm is likely to make you a specialist, not a generalist. You need to be an expert in something. So many people think it's a big deal being a generalist. The only candidates I'll work with at BCG, by the way, if I look at your resume and you're saying I'm doing IP and then I'm also doing corporate, well, there are crossovers in those practice areas, but okay, I'm doing IP and I'm also doing real estate. No, I'm not interested in you. I'm only interested in specialists because those are the only people law firms are interested in. It doesn't matter if they're big or small. Generalists, law firms do not pay recruiters for generalists, and you're going to have a much better time getting a job if everything in your resume is consistent. Again, this is one thing that can change the course of your job search and career. If you are a generalist, you're in trouble. Now, that may not be in a smaller market. In some smaller markets, you have to be the generalist to get clients and work on things. An example would be if you're in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and you're a corporate attorney, you're going to do every type of corporate. And but if you're in New York City, you're going to do one type of capital markets. I mean, it's just, so the firm size you're in is going to determine that. Clients, by the way, will pay a lot more money and you will make more money. Hint, hint. Again, this is another hint. If you are a specialist, because specialists can cut through stuff just like that tax guy. So back then, when I was working at this firm, that tax guy was like $1,000 an hour and the associates were, in the hundreds or, and because the really good attorney understands how to think about things and they're more efficient with their time. That's why New York law firms and stuff and big firms are so expensive. It's not because they're just big brands. I mean, it's because they're actually, the people there are more efficient with their time and small, and they have more work. They don't need to pad their bills. They just got, and the smaller the law firm, the more likely you are to be a generalist. And if you're a generalist, they're going to have skills that are marketable only to smaller firms. So you need to be a specialist. If you want to work with in a good big firm, you need to be a specialist. And clients pay a lot less money for generalists than they do specialists. I talk to people all the time that tell me, that they're generalists and they're proud of it. Oh, I did this contract. I'm helping this person with litigation, and those sorts of people tend to not get jobs. It's just how it is. I mean, you have to be a specialist. And larger clients use large law firms because those larger law firms have more specialized attorneys that can staff up to handle matters that need a lot of bodies and insights. So larger law firms tend to do much better work than smaller law firms. Because the larger clients are willing to pay the money it costs to have it done as well as possible. Why wouldn't you want to learn from that? I mean, I'm sorry, but do you want to learn how to do things in an average way or work that's not going to hold up, like this example, Silicon Valley versus New York? Or what do you want to learn? How do you want to learn? Do you want to learn to be exceptional or do you want to learn to be average? It's up to you. I mean, these are your choices. But at a large law firm, you're going to learn habits that are going to hold you to a higher standard. And you're going to be, than you would be held at a smaller law firm. You look at the work product of some smaller law firms, they can't even frickin' write a paragraph without tons of typos. But the contracts, I've seen contracts in smaller law firms that have multiple sales prices for the same, it's for the same thing. It's just, no, this is not how you do things. Researching things in depth, double checking work, having more sets of eyes go out, anything before they leave the office. So sometimes people leave smaller law firms and big law firms will say, I'm really upset. I don't feel like I'm, getting enough independence. And no, you're not getting enough independence because these law firms are set up where junior associates are doing one thing, mid-levels are looking over the work, senior associates are looking over the work. Then it goes up to a partner, the final product. This is because they want to do good work. You're being trained to do good work. Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. All these examples are how you make things good is when you have lots of eyes on things. And you become more thorough as an attorney in the majority of large firms because clients have the money to pay for this. And you should be, you're blessed if you have the opportunity to do busy work in a large law firm because you're learning how to be a good attorney. I was talking to a guy from Skadden not too long ago that was working on some case, and he was very upset that, or not Skadden, Sullivan and Cromwell. And I don't know, he was doing some work for Volkswagen or something on some and he felt like the work he was being given was busy work and would talk nothing about it. But this is the kind of work you get when you go to a Sullivan and Cromwell, because their clients are willing to pay for the very best people to do often the type of work. When you go to a big firm, you're likely to be surrounded by high achievers that are smart, and they're going to have different insights into what makes you successful, and who are very, very motivated and understand things. You couldn't pay, people pay people, like there are business groups out there, and that people will pay $250,000 a year to so they can associate with other high functioning business people. So do they need to charge $250? No. Famous story with Tony Robbins that he told me that he was young and he was just becoming successful. He made, and I think may have told us last week, he just made friends with some successful director or producer or something in Los Angeles. They invited him to be part of this group, and it was going to cost like $250 or $150 or something. And he said, I don't know if I can swing that. And the guy said, you cannot afford not to spend the money to be part of this group, because if you are part of this group, it's going to change you. And so this is the same thing with joining these large firms. It will change you. It will give you insights into things and people that you would never get in roots of achievement, decisions that high achievers make that average people don't. So this is important. Large companies send their work to prestigious large law firms because they know you're going to become more thorough in terms of the work you do, and that's why the large companies are getting the work, giving them the work. Smaller firms, the clients are more price sensitive. The work is more likely to leave their offices with lots of hours. People are not many sets of eyes are going over it. There's less supervision. It's not as in depth. There's not as many models and things to follow. And again, small law firms tend to have more generalists, and it means they may not be subject matter experts like you would get in a large law firm. So if you're not an expert in your practice area, it's going to create inefficiencies, lots of learning on the job that results in the attorney making errors or less likely to have been made by an attorney at a large law firm. I had an instance that was very exciting to me. So one of my best friends, someone had basically copied his entire website. Not one of my best friends, one of my old friends had copied his entire website, and he was upset about it. So I contacted a partner that I knew at one of my old firms that wasn't a copyright attorney. He was more of like a general litigator, and he charged him $10,000 to send a letter that said, "Please take down your website. It's in violation of copyright law." Well, that's not what a subject matter expert would have done. And that's really all the letter said. It was one or two lines. I said, why did you charge him $10,000? He said, well, I had to research the law and figure out, why, if it was okay or not. And I was like, well, okay. But then I thought about it later. And, if you just sent it to a copyright attorney, they would have done that. And it would have been $300 or $500. So you become a subject matter expert. And because of all these issues of working in a smaller firm, and the habits, it's difficult to move it's more difficult to move to a larger firm from a smaller one, because large law firms know that you will pick up bad habits there. And smaller law firms also tend to have lower billing rates, and this makes it much easier for them to bring in smaller clients and build a book of business. So that's actually an advantage for you. And larger law firms, it's often very difficult. You need to bring in huge clients to do that, and it's much more difficult to get clients in large law firms and be self-sustaining than it is in smaller law firms. Larger law firms also have institutional clients that many times you don't even need to bring in business. So if you're representing, a huge company like Tesla or something, then and that's the firm's client, that client may be giving millions or tens of millions of dollars worth of work, or even more than that, to the law firm each year. And so the law firm, if that client likes you and you're doing a good job, can afford to make people partner that may be staffed on matters like that. And then, of course, larger law firms pay more money than smaller law firms, and smaller law firms typically don't expect as many hours from you as larger law firms. It's much easier to go in-house from larger law firms than smaller firms, because companies typically are very sensitive to the name. They want to say our attorney is from, Mayor Brown or one of these other great firms or Kirkland or something. And that's a sign of quality. The name carries a lot of weight because they know that person would be very expensive at that large law firm compared to the smaller law firm, and it has a brand. So that's very helpful. And you're also much more likely to stay practicing law for the rest of your career, though, if you join a smaller law firm than a larger one. And then these are some of the advantages of each type of firm. I'm not going to spend a lot more time on this, but that's just, I think that those are the advantage and disadvantage. Here's another big one, your practice area. So this is huge. This will, unfortunately, this is going to determine for many people how happy you are practicing law and the later opportunities you're going to have. I think, just so you understand what practice area is good for you. I honestly, in many cases, don't think it matters. When you look at it's kind of funny, but you look at a lot of these Yale law graduates that work in big law firms, and a lot of times they're corporate attorneys and things like that. And then if you look at their background, like they might have studied the classics in college. A lot of people from Yale, for whatever reason, study classics and things like that because Yale seems to like that. But and then they go into corporate where, so that I think to some extent the practice area you're in is important, but at the same time, you don't, what I'm about to say applies, but not really. But people tend to very early in their lives will gravitate towards either things that involve math and numbers or verbal and related subjects. So when you were young, you probably preferred either like things like social studies and English and writing and history, or you preferred science and math and things like that. And what they've found in studies, and this is the kind of reading Harrison does in his spare time, which I don't really have a lot, but when I go on vacation, I love reading these kind of books, is by the time most of the people are in third grade, it's pretty obvious. You're more likely to be happiest and most effective if you're a numbers person doing transactional related practice areas like corporate, tax, real estate, executive compensation, ERISA, patent law, and so forth. If you're numbers, if you're verbal, you're going to be happiest and most productive in things like litigation, labor and employment, environmental, and other things that involve a lot of writing and speaking. So you're either kind of a verbal or numbers. It doesn't matter. Whatever one you are is fine. But many attorneys who are unhappy with the practice of law are unhappy, in my opinion. And I gave you the example of Yale earlier, but I think a lot of them are unhappy because they're in the wrong practice area. I remember I worked in a firm that my second firm was a New York firm that had a really well-regarded real estate practice. And I would look at the work these real estate attorneys were doing, and that would be like my worst freaking nightmare. And so real estate is almost kind of transactional nature too. And so the practice area you choose is very important because a lot of times numbers people are not going to like all the conflict and drama and that exists in a lot of these verbal practice areas. And verbal practice people are going to hate the tediousness and so forth of being in a transactional practice area. So I do believe that your happiness many times will be dependent practicing law, and it's a huge decision which one you join. For me, like litigation is the most obvious. There's no other practice area it gets me excited and out of bed, and I love it. The idea of it. Now, I think it's taxing emotionally, but I understand it instinctively. But a lot of times people get in the wrong practice areas, completely wrong for their nature. So if you talk about switching practice areas, it should not be like, I want to switch from litigation to labor and employment. You're essentially doing the same thing. It should be like, I want to switch from litigation to tax, or litigation to taxes is kind of a weird, and I want to switch from litigation to corporate, or I want to switch from corporate to litigation, because you're either in a verbal or transactional practice area. And so switching practice areas, you may want labor and employment because you think it's easier to get business and so forth. But if you're unhappy in your practice area, it's probably because you should be in a transactional practice area, or you should be in a litigation related practice area. And that's really it. It shouldn't be anything different. So you're not going to be suddenly happier if you're doing commercial litigation and you start doing some other type of litigation. It's not going to change the thing for you. And here's some other certain practice areas, considerations as well. Certain practice areas tend to be more social and non-social. It's just something to think about. General commercial litigation is more social than appellate litigation. I've talked to appellate litigators that I knew a guy at Quinn that was a Harvard Law School, Harvard Law Review, appellate clerk guy, and became partner at a big firm at Quinn, I think, and then Heller Ehrman, and I talked to him years later, and he was like, "Listen, man, I went into appellate. That was the worst decision I ever made. Like here I was talking to people and having fun all day, and then suddenly I'm in an office, and it was like the most sterile, isolating job. So again, it's more social. Corporate is more social than tax many times. So you get out there and do deals. Real estate more social than ERISA because you're talking to people on the phone all day about transactions. Patent litigation more social than patent prosecution. You get it. People tend to be either social or non-social. On BCG, there are these things called DISC tests, DISC. You should take that on the BCG site if you haven't, or take it somewhere else to understand kind of your nature and what you gravitate towards. But sometimes there's certain people that require a lot of interaction with others to be happy. So I've been in opposite sex relationships with people, and I can think of one relationship where the person I was with only felt good about themselves and excited when they were out meeting people and socializing, because that's what made them exciting. Well, for Harrison, my source of excitement is often studying matters like I'm talking to you about today, or working on our database, but it's not being social. It's more non-social. And again, you shouldn't hate me because I'm not as social, but the point is that certain people are motivated and get comfort out of being around others. Certain people don't. Like, that's the opposite. Like, they feel suddenly unhappy, and so introverted people get their strength from working alone and being self-reflective, and social people the opposite. So you need to be in a practice area that's to your nature. There's there's books out there about the benefits of being an introvert. Social people, you just need to be in a practice area that takes advantage of your skills, either verbal or non-verbal, verbal or non-verbal, social or non-social, are really the main considerations. And getting business is important. So your choice of practice area is going to determine often what happens to your career. It's easier to generate business as a corporate, real estate, or patent or employment attorney than as a litigation attorney. If you're a corporate attorney, all you need to do to generate business is just start going out and meeting with businesses, not even asking for business. Just talk to them, see how they're doing, what's going on, make friends with business people. Same thing with real estate. Start going out and talking to real estate investors and developers, and patents, same thing, find inventors, employment, start talking to people. I mean, it's really that easy. This is all these people do. There's no secret to being a business generator. It's just going out and finding people you can talk to that have the kind of work you do, not even asking them for business, just talking to them, because when they need work, they're going to think of you. Just being their friend, giving them advice, and they're going to feel indebted. That's all these people do. There's no magic to getting business. Again, this is one insight that could change the course of your life right now. If you want to get business, just go out and find people that have the type of work and set up meetings with them, and don't even pitch them. Just talk to them and see how they're doing and what's going on, meet with them. That's what the best people do. I had an experience once. I used to own these buildings in Pasadena, and this is a true story. It's very funny, by the way. And there was this guy that was, he was based in San Diego, and he was people call him like the most successful, maybe San Diego or Orange, the most successful commercial real estate agent in America or something. And this guy, like clockwork, and again, I didn't even know that much real estate back then. I mean, it was, 20, 30 million. I mean, that's a lot, I guess, but it wasn't anything crazy compared to the kind of people that are out there. And this guy would call me and just and say, "Hey, can I come see you?" Like every 6 months, like clockwork. I'd be like, "Sure." He'd come and sit down, talk to me, give me some report on how the market was doing, ask me about my family. I was like, what the hell's, and this is all this guy did. And this is how he was able to get so much business. It wasn't because, and again, there was nothing particularly impressive about this guy. He wasn't like some salesman or anything. It was just checking on how I was doing. This is all these successful attorneys do to get business. They just find people that have, and this guy identified me at that point as someone stupid enough to buy all this worthless real estate in Pasadena that I sold without making any money, or actually lost money. But the point is that, smart. I mean, this is what smart people do. And again, I know partners that have huge books of business and the more they do this, the more business they have. This is all you need to do to get business, guys and girls. If you want to be successful, this is all you need to do. Litigation attorneys, it's much harder to get business. They do the same thing, so they find people that get sued a lot, of course, but it's often more difficult for them to get business. But it's very easy to get business in these other practice areas. Most of these, I know a patent attorney. I was working with a patent attorney years ago that had a patent agent, not even an attorney, that had like a $3 or $4 million book of business. Listen to how stupid law firms are, by the way. He wanted to take his business to a law firm that would just give him a shingle over his head. And I couldn't find, he was in a Midwestern market. I couldn't find anybody to give him, and he was making a lot of money from this business. No one would give him a job because they were afraid he would make more money than the attorneys, even though they would make millions from his business. I mean, it's just really dumb decisions. But anyway, a lot of the work that litigators do, by the way, comes from corporate, it comes from real estate, it comes from patent, and it comes from employment attorneys. So if you want to get work as a litigator, you should make friends with people in firms that do nothing but corporate. You should make firms with attorneys in real estate firms that do nothing but real estate and so forth. This is a very easy way for you to get business. Again, this is one piece of advice that's going to help you. Quinn Emanuel grew by saying we're only going to do litigation and going out and making friends with people at Latham that didn't want to do certain types of litigation cases and had corporate work. Friends at firms that were doing only corporate or only real estate, and they started getting all these referrals. It's very easy to build a firm, guys and girls. It's very easy to get business. You just need to make these kind of decisions that are smart. Again, this insight could change the course of your career, and there's going to be many more over the course of this webinar. And there's fewer opportunities depending on the practice area. Litigation is hard, but it's not always, they're not always in the most demanding law firms. But again, large litigation matters, law firms love. During bad markets where litigation's bad, it can be very hard sometimes for litigators to get jobs. And the other problem with litigation, there's a bunch of problems with litigation, but the other problem with litigation is it's very difficult for litigators to stay employed beyond your 8th or 9th year in litigation in most firms, unless you have business. It can be very difficult because the work is not as predictable as it can be with corporate, where you're getting work over and over and over again. So it can be much more difficult to stay employed as a litigator, and people do it. But getting business as a litigator certainly is not impossible. Another point I just want to make about your choice of litigation is, and that would be as a commercial litigator, is if you want to get a job in a big firm as a litigator, things like clerkships, order the coif, and all those things, the quality of law school are important. The reason they're important is because people, law review with those skills tend to be better writers. They tend to, there's no test for the quality or the ability of writing other than those sorts of things. So those show that you have really good skills, and so law firms are more likely to be interested in you. Corporate, of course, is much more in demand if you choose that in major cities, and it's a good practice area to go in house with, but it still slows down to a complete standstill during recessions, and a lot of people lose jobs. It's much easier to last longer as a corporate attorney in a major firm than it is as a litigator. So corporate attorneys certainly get laid off, but when you get more senior, you know how to do deals and things. Law firms, once you get to your 4th or 5th year as a corporate attorney, you're less likely to get laid off. So let me tell you a little bit how that works. So most practice areas take between 1 and 5 years to learn what you're doing. Generally, like trademark, filing a trademark might take a year to really know what you're doing. But good trademark attorney would argue longer. But I'm just saying certain practice areas, not that long. and that's why they have a lot of paralegals, for example, doing trademark filings in law firms as opposed to attorneys, because it's something that a skill that can be learned fairly easily. That's not to say trademark litigation is not as complex as any practice area, because trademark litigation is different. But in most practice areas, it's going to take about 5 years to learn what you're doing. And so same thing with corporate. Until you have about 5 years of experience, and you're not going to be really good at being a corporate attorney in a way that a partner that's competent would trust you with work. And so 3 to 5 years, you kind of know what you're doing. So if you're a junior corporate attorney, law firms are going to be very happy to lay you off during a recession like we're having right now, because you don't know what you're doing. You need a lot of training, and they don't have the money to do that. Whereas you get more senior, you become very, very valuable. Law firms will often have lots of senior corporate attorneys, even 20-year associates as corporate, because the skill they have is so valuable. And there's fewer well-trained corporate attorneys is kind of the issue. Other practice areas like tax, white-collar litigation, employment things are also good practice area choices, but there's also going to be very few openings for attorneys in most markets in those practice areas. So that's just something to think about. Very difficult for white-collar litigators to get jobs in big firms coming out of the U.S. Attorney's Office or other firms. Same thing with tax, big firms, ERISA, employment, not as hard. Actually, employment's not that hard, but it's just something to think about, but it can be difficult. Real estate, patent, employment are typically, and I'm going to rush through this a little bit because I know not everyone's interested in this particular part of the presentation, but real estate, patent, employment are typically in demand in most markets at most points in time. And real estate can come to a complete standstill when interest rates are high. But again, that's a practice area where I think if you know what you're doing, it can be fairly easy to get business. Real estate right now is very, very slow. I know a very successful real estate attorney in Los Angeles, and he was telling a friend of mine recently that was doing some sort of deal that you're the only deal I have right now. And this guy's got like 50 plus attorneys in this firm and a very good attorney. These things can, slow down and beyond your 10th year of practice, it can be difficult to stay employed in a real estate, patent, and some of these other practice areas there. It's much easier for patent attorneys with physics, computer science, and electrical engineering to do good jobs than it is for those with biology, chemistry, or that. I mean, that's something most patent attorneys know. Okay, so the next one is getting along with the people you work with. I've talked about this a lot already at the beginning, so I'm not going to talk too much more about that, but a lot of people will have conflicts with their peers. If you have problems getting along with other people, there are therapists, not therapists, but coaches that specialize in things called executive functioning that you should understand. A lot of people in the legal profession have psychological problems. You could be mildly bipolar or something that's going to make you mad at people. You should talk to a psychiatrist if you have those. You have a lot of people have become good attorneys because they have conflicts with their parents that they're trying to prove something. I don't care why it is. Again, I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, but you need to fix your issues with other people and what's making you angry. I talk to men all the time that are mad at their fathers. I talk to women that are mad at their mothers. All these and have conflicts with women and conflicts with women having conflicts with women and men having conflicts with men because you're dealing with father and mother figure. I don't care. Like I'm not, everyone has this. People have anger issues towards their parents because their parents were abusive or drank or something. You should go to Al-Anon if you have that. I mean, I don't know what your issues are, but this is a big deal. A lot of people have problems getting along with others and lose their tempers. They have all sorts of resentments and anger and other issues. And this, by the way, is what all these self-help programs do for people, like whether it's therapy or AA or Al-Anon or NA. This is what they all do, is they help people deal with these sorts of issues and they take people through kind of a program. I speak with people all the time that get fired and because other people don't like working with them. I had a counsel level attorney from a big firm I was speaking with not too long ago that was fired because no one he supervised would work with him. That's hard to deal with. He had a very combative style. and he lost his position, and that because of that. I talk to people all the time that can't get along with their peers. Partners get into arguments about staffing issues with their former partners, and they sit around instead of feeling good about their jobs. Which again, I'm not saying every job's perfect, but they get mad about these things and they don't stick around. There are certain people, by the way, that go into wherever they work, put their head down and work hard, and they allow karma to unfold, and they end up doing well. Other people fight about everything, and that hurts them. And people leave over stupid issues. Their partners leave firms every 2 years because they always get in fights for 3 years, and they take their associates with them. I talk to associates like that all the time. Associates often snap at partners and say something insubordinate if they're asked to leave or give a poor review. Male attorneys, this is very, very common at every firm I've ever been at, and every firm out there. This is a problem. Guys, I would just be very upfront with you. You do not want to have any romantic relationships with whatsoever in your office, whether it's with a paralegal or legal secretary, whether it's with another attorney, whether it's with a senior attorney, a junior attorney, whatever. It is the dumbest frickin' thing you ever can do. It's very easy to meet people on dating apps and things. Don't keep this out of the frickin' office. It will get you in trouble. It's bad judgment. There's no reason for it. I was working with a partner not too long ago. He was the head of the corporate practice group at one of the largest law firms in the United States, in their office in Chicago. And it came out that he had 2 or 3 years previously a romantic interlude with a paralegal. Okay, that's it. Just a paralegal in his firm. They found out about it, and not only did they fire him, but they blackballed him, and he lost everything. And he couldn't get another job. He had to start some private equity firm or something. Like, this is serious business, guys and girls. Well, guys, I'm talking to you right now. You do not want to screw around with anybody in your own firm. It's going to you're going to be in so much freaking trouble. Like, you just can't even go near this. This is the most toxic possible thing you can do. Now, you can certainly maybe get away with it, but it's he said, she said, and when things go badly. I had a friend that was at the NFL making $500,000 a year. That before that he was not even working, and he walked up to a girl that he'd been working with late at night at a staff meeting, and he walked up behind her and he said, and he was she was his peer, meaning she was also making $500,000 a year in the same job, and she was his peer, and he put his hands on her neck and he said, "You doing all right after last night?" And he got fired and blackballed. I mean, this is serious. Like, I mean, they fired him. They brought in attorneys. They publicly put an announcement out in the press that he was fired for sexual harassment. Like, come on, like, this is the most toxic possible thing you can go near, and you will get burned to the stake. I mean, it's not even. And I see this all the time. Law firms are all over it, and they won't tolerate it. You do not want to have any same-sex relationships or opposite-sex relationships with anyone in your workplace. I would also just caution you. This is another thing. If you are friends with people in the workplace and you tell them personal information, you should assume that personal information will be known by the entire frickin' firm. So I had an instance once where this is actually kind of funny, where I was I got in a fight with someone in a restaurant what was the name? And it was some sort of one of these 80s Brat Pack people, Judd Nelson, and I got in this huge fight with him because he said something really rude to me. I said, you look familiar," and he said, "Leave me alone, dude. I don't, leave me the hell alone," or something. And then I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then he pushed me, and it turned into, I don't know, but it was something along those lines. This was years ago. And anyway, and so I ran out to the car, and I came out, and later I told my friend what happened. Well, the whole firm knew about it the next day, and I started getting these emails from partners like, "Nice job." I mean, I didn't want to be known as someone who's fighting with people in restaurant bathrooms. So anything you tell your friends is just keep in mind it's going to go out to the entire firm. But this same-sex and opposite sex relationships, romantic, just needs to be just is a big no-no. Women, no. Again, I don't want to talk to women because I don't want to be said as sexist, but I would also say, you need to be extremely careful as well, because you don't know how this information will be interpreted by people, and everyone just needs to be really freaking careful. And I've seen women attorneys lose their job because they were partners and someone was an associate. I mean, it's just, you got to be really careful. And I'm not going to even touch the women issue because who knows what would happen to me. But everyone needs to be careful. You cannot lock yourself in your office, or if you're working remotely, not ever come into the office. People that do that often do not get work and receive poor reviews. More often than not, this sort of behavior drives them crazy because they don't know the social goings on in the offices. Cliques form and all sorts of things where work is distributed and they're not part of, and it can hurt you. One attorney I spoke with, this is written pre-COVID, but got to prosecute through bad reviews and didn't come to work for almost 2 weeks. And when he returned, told the worm, that he was upset about his bad review and was fired. So people, get fired for this sort of stuff. And, you can't do this. So you need to work yourself and your social skills to sit in a big law firm. I was talking to a mentee of mine today that was it's at a big firm, like a well-regarded, I don't know, it's New York-based or where firm. And I had gotten mad at him about some stuff a while ago, and now he's afraid of me, or afraid of ruining our relationship by allowing me to help him with information again. And he said, I'm just afraid. And I was like, well, if you have a problem, like, you need to confront it. So anytime you have a problem with people, like if you're fighting with people, you need to move in and get closer and just start talking to them and fix it. You don't want that tension. If you have a problem with a partner, you need to walk in and say, listen, can I do some work to make it up with you? You don't allow all these tensions to fester. These social skills, by the way, are extremely important. If you do well at them, you're going to do well. And you always need to show your best side in the office. The next decision is not cutting corners. Everyone's going to get exposed if you cut corners. You're going to look bad and your work's not going to be trusted. Every assignment you get, you need to think through. You need to make sure you're not making dumb errors and always be alert to different things. If you make dumb errors, then you could be exposed. I saw there's this thing in litigation where if you have these things called requests for admission, which are basically a law firm. Anyway, you have to attach what's called the verification. And if you don't, everything is deemed admitted and you could lose a case. And I've seen people lose their jobs for failing to get a verification from the client. I mean, you just have to be very careful and not make dumb errors and be alert to different angles. And this is 50. I've seen people. I know one guy that had a law firm in Los Angeles. I think it was called Rutter Hobbs, and they made a super procedural mistake against this law firm that had been around for 30 plus years, and maybe it was 50 years, I guess, 50 years old firm, and the whole firm had to shut down because of some procedural mistake made by a senior associate. I mean, come on, this is serious stuff. I know lots of people that have made serious procedural errors due to cutting corners that got them fired from their jobs. I knew one guy that was at Folding and Lardner or some big firm like that. And again, I'm not going to quote it. He was about ready to make partner. And someone asked him if he'd sent a letter to a client. And he said yes. And then the law firm found out that he hadn't and fired him. So right when he was about ready to make partner. So this stuff happens. And, a lot of people miss issues. And when this happens, you can be in a lot of trouble. A lot of people have worked for me and made stupid errors. I see it all the time. I see people just making bad judgment. I had one attorney working for me. I was sending out some letters about student loans or something to, I don't know, like 180,000 people or something. And someone sent him an email, said, you want this to go out pre-sort or first class? And without even knowing the difference between the two, he said, first class. Well, if you send something out pre-sort, it's like 12 cents a letter. If you send it out first class, it's like 50. So he cost me like $40,000 or whatever the number was. And I was like, this is really freaking bad judgment. Like, you don't, like, like, people make these mistakes all the time. I've seen people, it's just, you can't do it. You need to be very careful. Again, this is the stuff about the letter, getting fired. So you just can't cut corners. You need to be as thorough as possible. And if you do cut corners, everyone's just going to stop giving you work. And one issue, one assignment, and you can lose your job. This is why people are paying you hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in big firms, is because you're expected to have the ability not to cut corners. And again, if you cut corners and you get the reputation for that, then and not pretend. This is the job of attorneys. The job of an attorney is not to cut corners. It's to anticipate problems and not make sure that this stuff happens. And it's why clients and other attorneys give you work to do. And the more careful you are and the less likely you are to cut corners, the better attorney you are. So listen, like, you may have these ideas of, like, watching television and thinking what a good attorney is. You may be in a bad firm and not understand what a good attorney is. But this is the whole thing I'm telling you. When you're in these really big firms, like, this is what they do. They don't cut corners. They don't make mistakes. That's why big clients trust them. Now, they do make mistakes, but they make them less often. And this is why big clients trust them. This is why courts trust their work. It's because they're going in this level of detail. This is the job of an attorney, by the way. Your job of an attorney is to not cut corners and be good at this. And so this is just all there is to it. Sorry, but this is your job. This is what you have to do. This is, if you don't like it, do something else. But this is what the best attorneys do. They don't cut corners. They figure out the way to come up with the best solutions. Billing more hours than your peers. The quality of your work is definitely one measure, but billing hours is a sign that you're willing to work harder. It's also a sign that other people are willing to give you work to do and that you take what you do seriously. So the more work you have, the more likely it is you have this work, because you have a reputation for doing good work among your coworkers. So people that have a lot of work are getting work because they do good work and they're not cutting corners. And so they have a reputation for doing good work. They're also making money from the firm. So if you're a firm, by the way, and you're paying someone just $200,000, and your billing rates, say, I don't know, this $500,000 or $500 an hour, one person's billing 2,000 hours and bringing in $1 million, and the other person's billing 3,000 hours and bringing in 1.5 million, and the law firm is saying, who's more valuable to us? Well, come on. Someone that's generating an extra, $500,000 a year for them is definitely more valuable. So this is all there is to it. I mean, it's very simple. I've talked to you in this case before, but I was giving notice at I think it was Quinn and they basically came into my office and a couple guys were trying to talk me into staying. And I told them I was upset about investing so much time into this firm when it seemed my odds of making partner, it would be so difficult to make partner there because someone that I was close with didn't make partner. And one of the partners said to me something very funny, but he said, well, the people that didn't make partner were billing, 25 to 2,800 hours or something. I don't know the exact number. And the person who did was billing 3,200 hours. This is all they said. So again, and again, I may have the numbers wrong. It might have been 3,000 versus 33 or something. But the point is that's what happened. So again, throughout my years of practicing law, and I was a legal placement professional, I just keep seeing the importance of people having billable hours. I see people lose their job all the time for not having hours. I see I see people that don't participate and get more work losing their job. It's just, this is the game. So the being detail oriented is a game, but so's the hours. It's the game. It's what you have to do. So this is how law firms measure your value: the quality of your work, the quality of your relationship with your peers, and the extent of your economic contribution to the firm. I mean, this is all they have to go on. So why wouldn't you give them that? The decisions are often made in hours. In most large law firms, they get reports every week about, so it's kind of funny. So judges, for example, they compare each other based on the number of cases they have pending in their docket. So judges a lot of times will try to get rid of cases very quickly. They don't like having, because then they compare each other to that. Well, in large law firms, the partners get reports every week of, or sometimes every month of every associate's hours, like who's at the top, who's at the bottom. And so if you're an associate and billing a lot of hours and walking down the hall, that's why you're getting a lot of smiles, because you're billing the most hours and they see it. So why wouldn't you want to bill a lot of hours? I mean, this is your contribution. And no matter how you slice it, the hours you bill are going to determine your future in every firm. So this is what you need to do. And you bill every hour you possibly can. You don't, if you're thinking about something in the shower and you really are, you build a build a 15-minute increment or whatever that your firm, I mean, this is what you do. You figure out how to bill as many hours as you can. The firm will write off your hours that they don't want to bill, but you bill every hour you can. This is your job. You figure out how to bill every single second you're thinking about this stuff and all the work you're doing in an ethical way to bill as many hours as you can, because that's your job. Now, if you think you're billing too many hours, that's not your decision. The partner or whoever will write off your time if they think it's too much, but you bill every second you can, because this is the only way you're being evaluated. Why wouldn't you? No one's going to tell you, by the way, to bill more hours or that you should be billing more hours. They'll just kind of give you negative reviews and feedback. They're not going to tell you. No one's ever going to come and say, you're not billing enough hours. So I want to make sure everyone understands this. You're only judged by the hours you write down. So what are you going to do? So you're going to have to think about, billing, how you can bill as many hours as you can in an ethical way. It's just very important. You could read an article about something related to your practice area if you think it's interesting, or when you're on vacation, and you could bill for that. And theoretically, if it's research related, I mean, there's so many things you can do to make your hours high, but no one's going to tell you this stuff. And I'm telling you it right now. The law firm, it's their decision to write it off, and the partners. You write down what you did and leave it at that. And if they want to, my entire time practicing law, no one ever called me and said, this is too many hours on something. I had a funny thing happen. This is actually a true story. I was at this firm, Dewey Ballantyne, and I wanted to have the highest hours, and in my in among the associates, which everyone should be trying to do. But they didn't have a lot of work. So one day someone said to me, go research these matters for us. And I was like a month away from, and there was no other work at the time. The firm was losing partners. It was having all these problems. And it was some case about a hospital. So they go research this matter about such and such. So I was like, no problem. So I went, and I knew if I was going to get the highest hours at the firm, I would need to bill, 300 hours that month or something, whatever the number was. And so I went and Xeroxed every article I could find about this issue. Had it Xeroxed and read it, and then I put notes on it, put together outlines, and all the stuff, and made my 300 hours. Well, a month or two later, I got a call from a partner. It's the only time anybody ever questioned my hours. And they said, can you show us the research you did? And I said, sure, no problem. And I had like 5 or 6 banker's boxes filled with everything, in addition to this like 70 or 80 page memo I wrote, because no one told me I could work as many hours as I wanted. So I did. That's what I did. I worked as many hours, and they were blown away. And then the funny thing was then I was walking down the hall later, and I saw these flashes. And there were some partners standing around, like going like this, like kind of thought it was funny. And they were taking pictures of all the work that I'd done to send to the client with a bill, which was because they had all the big conference room table, all the articles and bankers boxes lined up. So you guys, it's easy to make lots of hours, even if there's no work in your firm, is what I'm telling you. This is the game. So the next one is, and this is the flashes, because back then the cameras. Anyway, so having a long-term view of your career instead of a short-term one is the 11th one. So, whether in your early 20s or even in your late 50s, you still have the option to take a long-term or short-term version of your legal career. The long-term view means that you should make every decision with the understanding that it's going to have ramifications for the rest of your career. A lot of young attorneys make stupid long-term decisions. Again, you're practicing, even if you're in your 50s, you can practice for another 40 plus years. I've moved attorneys with big books of business, like 8 or 9 million, or one I'm thinking of had like 11 in their 80s. Come on, I mean, the president's in his 80s. So think about this. I just want you to understand this. Like, just because things aren't going well in your 20s or your 30s or even your 40s, I mean, this is insane. So a lot of people will quit their jobs, and then they'll wait 6 months longer to start a position. And by the time they've waited to start a position, they've sent the message that they're not really serious about their careers. And it's very difficult. Large law firms don't hire people that have taken time off. Now, I'll tell you about a really nice law firm, Davis Polk. I was talking to someone there the other day, and it was just someone of a friend or something, and she, this Davis Polk, by the way, what a freaking awesome firm. It's one of the best firms in the country. I mean, but the point is that this firm had some woman had taken time off when she was a second or third year associate to go have a baby. Well, time off turned into 20 plus years. And then when she came back and said, I want to go back to work, they said, no problem. And there she is back on the partnership track again 20 years later. This is Davis Polk. What an awesome firm. So I've been just putting a shout out for that firm to say, this is the kind of stuff really good firms do, but most firms don't. Most firms, if you leave and you're gone for 6 months, will not allow you to come back. So it's just, and it's very difficult to get a job in another firm. Other attorneys will quit jobs for dumb reasons. So to the extent the legal market, if you quit your job for dumb reasons, it's going to look like you've been fired. And most high quality law firms have plenty of people to choose from. So if you're a law firm and you want to hire someone, who are you going to hire? And you get 100, you get 50 applications. You're going to hire someone that looks like they were fired, or someone that took all this time off? Are you going to hire someone that is likely to stick around? I don't know. What would you do? That's what I certainly would do. Someone not stick around, but someone that hasn't been fired. Because someone that's fired, there could be all these hidden problems. There could be potential sexual harassment in the background. There could be problems with the work, lying, detail, all these things. And this is what law firms want to avoid. And again, going in-house, the government, public interest, or small firms, if you want to go back to a major law firm, you cannot make these decisions. You have to stick in the same type of milieu that you're in right now. And these decisions, I just want you to understand, deciding because you're not getting along with someone in your firm, which again, you should go and confront the problem, or you don't like your hours or other problems, you should be making sure that you do everything within your power to fix those things and stick around at the firm. Because if you go and take some job or quit or time off, it's going to cost you tens of millions of dollars, or at least millions, and probably lost compensation and maybe even happiness if you have your own business in a law firm later. Now, this decision, I can't emphasize enough. This is very important. This is fixing your mental, physical, and other issues so you can be the best employee possible. And I just want to make sure I make a point here, because I never realized this till I was much older. And this is a very important point. Your mind is what you're selling. So shouldn't you do everything within your power to take care of your mind? You're selling your mind. Is it smart to pollute it with alcohol and drugs? Is it smart if you have psychological problems not to fix that with therapy? Is it smart if you have some sort of chemical imbalance not to get some prescriptions or whatever that are going to help you? Is it smart if you have problems with stress not to meditate? Is it smart not to get sleep if you have problems with that? Is it smart to not work on your anger issues? Is it smart not to have the best mind possible? Because you're selling your mind. Your mind is what helps you make decisions. Your physical status also impacts your performance. All these things are important. You're selling your mind. So why wouldn't that be the one thing you take care of? Your mental issues, by the way, can be caused. You could be in a relationship with the opposite sex or the same sex, a romantic relationship with someone that's negative and putting you down all the time. And that could affect your happiness. You could be in a relationship with someone that's helping you and but you have to decide what's going to make you the best person possible. A lot of attorneys are very unhappy. I was talking to, and this is a very important statement. I was talking to one of our woman that works for me, that if you work with us, you probably know, Carlene Trapp, a couple of days ago. And she was saying, most of the attorneys I talked to are unhappy. Wow. Wow. Huh. But again, there's ones that aren't. There's a lot of them that are very, very happy. So, and most, but a lot of attorneys end up going off the rails. I've watched more partners and associates than I can count destroy themselves with drug and alcohol problems. I mean, are function way below their potential, living far below their potential. I know so many attorneys that are just freaking out of control, not alcoholics and and others. I know so many people that have died. I mean, it's not good. You can get very unhealthy. Wow. I mean, so many people, they die of heart attacks, cancer, other things that I think are stress induced and caused by not taking care of themselves. If you're exposing yourself to stress every day and you don't have an outlet, your body is going to self-destruct and give you cancer and kill yourself. I mean, it's just how it works. Or if you abuse your mind and stuff. Two or three of my best friends from high school are dead. And I used to have a lot of fun with beer and going out every week, but they just kept going. And and same thing in my fraternity, like I told you, again, this stuff, and then I remember, I was someone called me, this is like 5 years ago. And again, there's one of my friends, I mean, he's early 40s or whatever. And my best friend in high school, I don't remember, and I was like, God, I can't believe he's dead too. And so-and-so died and so-and-so died. And these are all people. And they're like, and I was like, but these are all guys that kept, drinking or using drugs. And he said something like, well, yeah, who would have thought? So again, all this stuff kills you. It's none of this, and the stress kills you. I've had people just, there was an attorney that was working in one of my offices and he died and in my office, I think. But and I remember the real estate agent that came by that was leasing, and he said, he just held everything inside. He held all the stress inside. I have so many attorneys, I'll look up guys. I had a really nice guy that was a partner at Baker and Botts, and he was a candidate of mine. He was English, and I got him a job in London. He never took it, and he was from the United States, but he was born in England or something. And he worked really hard and became partner. And then, one day he went home. This is when he was in his late 30s, early 40s, and he got home and woke up dead or something the next morning. I mean, he didn't wake up, but I mean, he was dead the next morning. I mean, his body just stopped. I know people that died in airports, and it's just, you got to, and again, these are abnormal deaths. It's not that people don't die, but it's you have to take care of yourself, and this is extremely important. And if you're not, you need to fix whatever's wrong with you. And I certainly, offer counseling sometimes to attorneys, but I mean, this is big stuff. I mean, it's huge, and because it kills people. I mean, I don't want you to die. I mean, I don't want anyone on this call to die from practicing law, and it does kill people. Wow. I mean, I read an article called "Another Attorney I Know Just Died Young" not too long ago, and it's very sad. It's very, very common. Wow. And a lot of people I know have had mental breakdowns. Again, there's partners in firms having mental breakdowns all the time, associates, it's going on all the time. These are caused by the stress. The stress often brings about other mental conditions that may be underlying things that have happened to you when you're young. Sometimes people stress. I mean, there's all sorts of things that happen to people. Some people might be sexually abused when they're young and only remember it years later when they get therapy. I mean, it's causing all this anger. I mean, there's so many problems and drama and things people have, and it affects you for the rest of your life. And you need to address it because it's going to hurt you in your career. So I'm just trying to help you in your career right now and tell you the things you need to do. But you've had trauma. Everyone on this call has probably had trauma. And if you don't address it, it's going to negatively affect your career. A lot of attorneys will become anorexic because it's the only source of control that they have, or they'll become obese, meaning, again, I'm not an expert in obesity or anorexia, but I certainly have studied it because I've seen it hurt people. And it's usually the only source of control. They can eat as much, and then that they can control their food, or they can, it's sad. I mean, again, I'm not an expert in this, and I don't want to scare people and act like by any source of the imagination. I understand this. That's probably one of 1,000 causes of it. But one is just, you try to get control or comfort or something in this stressful thing. And everyone's human, and everyone has all these problems. Now, I do want to tell you one thing again. If you have problems, if you have psychological problems, if you have substance abuse problems, the last thing in the world you should do would be tell people in the firm about it, because I'm sorry, people will use that information against you, and you just have to be careful. Now, you may have to at some point tell people about it, but even if you tell HR about it, it's likely to get out to the partners. I mean, you have to be very careful about it, but you need to fix it. If you're drinking, you should go to AA meetings or do whatever you can to fix it, and do it on your free time and become a better person. If you're if you have problems with sex abuse, you go to a sex addiction. I mean, whatever your issues are, you need to find out how to fix them, because it's going to help you. If you're paranoid, you need to get medication. Again, I'm not telling you to take medication, but you need to fix that, whatever your problems are, because your mind is what you're selling, and you need to be in control, smart and present. You need to show people your positive side and be the best you can be. I remember, this is a story I like to tell, but when I was a summer associate in this big New York law firm, the top partner, the one that had the most business, was someone was saying, that when you walk in a room, if you're charging $1,000 an hour, whatever it was back then, you need to look like the person that's most in control and has it most together. And that's why I wear these expensive suits and work out 10 times a week and all this stuff, because I want to look like that sort of person. And that's exactly what you need to do. Again, now these are later career decisions, as the final part of this webinar. The one is moving jobs or not. So my business is moving attorneys between law firms. And if you talk to me, I invited, for example, all of my candidates to this call today. I will tell you more often than not, maybe 51% of the time not to move jobs, and 49% I will. I don't care. I mean, there's people want my help, and I don't need to convince people to move firms. If you're my candidate, I won't even call you on the phone and convince you to take an offer. I mean, you have to make the decision that's right for you. I'm not a salesman. This is the farthest thing from it. I've already discussed this to some extent on this call. But again, moving firms for the wrong reasons can have disastrous effects on your career, while moving for the right reasons can have good decisions. So when I work with someone, I always look at their resume. I'm like, can I help this person move upward, or is there something that looks good about them? And so the best resumes typically show this upward mobility, and the worst resumes show the opposite. So they're just a series of bad decisions, like, being in a big firm, then opening your own practice, and then going in-house, and then going to work for the government, or who knows, just these dumb things that have no continuity to them. This is not your resume and career decisions shouldn't be fun. They should be smart and thought out. It should be people you should be listening to things like I'm talking about, and reading articles and figuring out. But if you want to work in a law firm and get other jobs, you should look like you're moving towards something greater and not achieving. Like your resume should have different things on it that are like, this decision was good, this decision was good, this decision was good. If you want to be an insurance attorney, like insurance defense, you should be on all these committees and have it start and go to these presentations and be in these groups, and everything's about being great at insurance defense. I don't care what practice area you do. You may not think being a family law attorney is prestigious or whatever, but the people that commit to these things have great careers. Did you know? I mean, in LA, I mean, a family law attorney make millions of dollars a year. You can be any type of attorney and do well. It doesn't matter. It's about having some sort of focus. And if you don't have any focus, you're just telegraphing weakness. No one wants to hire people that doesn't know what they want to do. That's crazy. Like, who would that's insane. Like, I'm trying this out. I'm going to try this out. I thought about doing this. I'm going to do this. No, like, that's bad, because if you're an employer, you're just going to be the next rung in the ladder, someone, trying to do something else. I started off, I saw a resume not too long ago of an attorney who impressed me. She started out in the state office and investigated securities fraud at her law school. It was the only job she could get. Then she moved to a federal office that investigates securities fraud, which is more prestigious. Again, this is someone that went to like a third or fourth tier law school, couldn't get a job, took some state job, where she was just kind of an investigator. And then she moved to a federal office and did the same thing, but it was more prestigious after she got some experience. Federal, of course, is more prestigious than state. Then she moved to a well-regarded small firm that did plaintiff's work in the securities fraud space, meaning putting together these kind of securities lawsuits. That was more prestigious than the government job. Then she moved to a mid-sized firm that did defense. So she moved from plaintiff, which is not as prestigious, to defense, which is even more prestigious. And then the larger firm had better quality attorneys. And so she became better off. And she's in her 7th year and now has the qualifications to work in a huge firm. She can go to work at DLA Piper or whatever. I'm not saying that's the firm has anything to do with her search or anything. I'm just saying, but a firm of that caliber, she can get a job there now. And this is someone that never could ever get a job at a firm of that caliber, whose law school probably didn't get people at jobs at firms of that caliber when they were coming out of law school. So by making a series of good long-term decisions and steadily and slowly moving herself to a better and better jobs, she set herself up to become part of a major law firm. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and do the rest of these, and then we will do questions. The break's going to be probably like 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll come back and talk about when to move firms and a couple other important career decisions for practicing attorneys. And then if you have questions, you can start putting those about what's been covered so far into the Q&A, because after this presentation is over and there's not much time left, we will do questions. And typically with the Q&A, I will give as much time as needed to all your questions. You can ask whatever you want about anything related to your career and any questions you have so far. If you're a law student, you can ask law student questions and attorneys, and I typically will stick around and answer all these questions as long as you have. And this is a good opportunity, to ask questions because it's also free, and I'm not charging, obviously, for time or anything. So I'm happy to answer, whatever questions people have. All right. So the next decision is when to move firms. So this is a very important decision, especially if you're thinking about lateraling. And a lot of people like to lateral at the beginning of the year or different parts of so this is obviously a time when people, might make the decision to move firms. So, but when to move firms is a good question. So one of the things that I think is very important is not moving firms too often. I think it's important to move to a firm if it's a bigger firm or has more opportunity, and if you're moving up. But there's a lot of people that move too often, and I'm sorry, but I don't think that's smart. I think that anytime you move, you basically send the message that things didn't go well at your last employer, and therefore you need to move again. Now, law firms are smart enough to realize that people make mistakes earlier in their career, and they may move, for different reasons. But if an employer thinks you're going to move and move too much, they're going to be very reluctant to hire you because they know you're going to move again. Like, I interview people all the time, and I'm like, "Wow, you've had 4 jobs in 6 years." I mean, this is for my company, for example, and they're like, "Yeah, but things, there's good reasons." Those people always move again. There's just people out there that like to move, and they get some sort of joy from it, or they go to some place, meaning attention, or they go to the firm and things never work out, and so they have to go to another one again because they're doing things wrong, or they have psychological problems. I mean, I don't know, but if firms think you're going to leave, they're not going to trust you with clients or what's going on inside the firm, because why would they give you access to important work? Why would they give you access to important information? Why would they share information and their vulnerability with you if they think you're going to leave? Because people that leave doesn't send the right signal. Again, I'm sorry to report this, but it's if the next law firm doesn't think you're going to stick around, it's very bad. So one of the things I like to always talk about in these webinars is if you're from, like, say you're from Minneapolis and you're working in San Francisco and you want to move on to Minneapolis, well, the firms in Minneapolis are going to be very excited to hire you because they're thinking that you're just moving back home if you're from Minneapolis, and there's nothing wrong with your performance. But if you're in the Bay Area and you want to move to another firm or wherever you are, the firms are not going to be as excited because they're going to think something's wrong with you and you're having problems in your existing firm. So again, just think about that difference. Someone moving all the way across the country where they're going to have to pay their moving expenses and all this stuff compared to someone that's local, it's much easier to get a job when you're moving home than it is when you're moving. Again, this is one thing that can change the whole course of your career if you understand it, than if you're moving locally, because law firms are very suspicious of people when they move. It's just how it is. I have a much better chance placing anyone that's moving home or to another market for because their spouse is there, or who knows. But And again, there's nothing wrong with moving firms, and moving firms to get ahead is also very smart. But what's important though is making sure you're moving at the right time. So when do you move? So you should never move before you have more than 1 year of experience. And typically, the best time to move is when you're a mid-level, which is 3 to 5 years, but even 2. But you're not going to be able to move in your first year. You shouldn't even be thinking about it. You should just be doing the best job you can when you're first year. Wait till at least you have a year of experience before you move. And then you should only move to either a better firm, meaning you're at a tier 3 firm and you want to move to a tier 4. And again, this is the Harrison Barnes ranking system of firms. Is tier 1 is working for consumers. 2 is working mainly for consumers, but maybe with a little bit more money, or small businesses. Tier 3 is kind of your average mid-level. Tier 4 is going to be like your AmLaw 100 type 200 firms, and then your tier 5 is going to be your most prestigious, your Sullivan, Cromwell, Cravath, O'Melveny, Gibson's, things like that. So, so moving to a more prestigious firm, you can always do that. That's actually good. There's nothing wrong with a prestigious firm. You can also move to a firm where there's more opportunity, meaning there's more jobs and they have bigger clients, and you're going to get better training, or they're better in your practice area. That's smart. Firm that has more work, firm that's more stable. So these are all good reasons. If you want to be in a different geographic region, if you want to work with larger clients, if they have more. So an example would be, you might be in a firm doing tax law, and there might be 2 people in your office doing it, and you want to move to a firm that has a tax department with 20 attorneys. Smart. I recommend it all day. You might be in a firm that represents mainly smaller businesses, and want to work in bigger clients. Smart. I mean, you can move to a firm that pays a lot more money. The only reason I left the firm Quinn Emanuel is that at the time there was in Los Angeles, there were 2 firms. There was Dewey Ballantine and Skadden that were paying double. I mean, what the hell? They were from New York, of what the market rate was in Los Angeles at the time, and all over the country. So why wouldn't you? I mean, double? Yes, thank you. I will move even though I'm happy. So this is just that. But again, that turned out to be a very bad decision for me, and here I am. But the point is that if there's firms where people are more like you, where the culture's better. I mean, again, you could be a firm where the culture is horrible, you don't like the people, then fine. If there's a better culture where you're happier and that's going to make you happy, move. There could be ones where you have to commute and go to work, and these are all good reasons. So there's, again, you can look at these reasons and write down the ones, but they have to be good reasons. They have to be things that a reasonable person would do. And if they don't pass the reasonable test, you just then think about it. I mean, I've heard people I've been at dinners and things, and people are like, "Oh, I want to move because I'm really upset about the entertainment reimbursements and the client budget." I mean, it's just stupid. And so, and then after your 5th year, you should only really move if there's no opportunity at your existing firm, meaning you're being pushed out. They've told you have to leave, or if there's a place where you can go have a better chance of long-term survival than you have at your current firm. I want to be very clear that most people that don't make partner in a lot of firms, not all firms, but a lot of firms, they don't make partners because they leave. They're just scared, or they don't believe. And you shouldn't leave. So if you want to go someplace where you have a better chance of law firm survival if you leave. By the way, 5th and 6th and 7th years, you typically, it gets a little dicey, and if you move. I mean, there's firms that will hire you, but you have to be very careful. And then partners, I know a lot of partners watch these webinars and it's calls, but you only should move for pretty much when your firm is in trouble, financial, or taking too much of the money you're bringing in, which is a huge thing, or there's conflicts, with your clients, and you can't bring in clients, or the firm is not providing you adequate support, or their billing rates are too high for the type of work you do, or they're not emphasizing or supporting your practice here. I mean, there's a bunch of reasons that partners move, and they're all good reasons, and it's the same sort of thing. So you want to be very careful about moving as a partner, because again, that partners will often move. Now, partners have the luxury of being able to move is pretty much as they want if they have a good book of business. Because law firms, this is what's nice about staying in law firms, by the way. If you go in-house, you're going to have a very difficult time moving jobs. I have seen partners move jobs every 2 to 3 years for 30 plus years. Why? And to good firms. So then their resume basically says something like, have been a partner at 15 of the top 20 law firms. I mean, it's hilarious. It's like our top 100 law firms, but you can do this. And the reason you can do it is because if you have a $5 million book of business and you're willing to accept $1 million a year in compensation, and the law firm's got $4 million to play with after they bill all your clients, well, hell yeah, they're going to open the door. Now, law firms like Latham and Gibson and like really good law firms wouldn't open their door to you in a million years, but a lot of law firms will. So, and again, I'm not criticizing those firms. I'm just saying that they have very strong partnerships where they're just not hiring you based on the money, but most law firms will hire you based for money reasons. And so Gibson, by the way, if you want to be a partner there, I was talking to the head of a practice group there at a dinner recently with her, and I mean, they make you interview with partners in every office. And I mean, if you want to be a partner there, I mean, it's a huge process. I mean, because they really take it seriously. And this Gibson, again, is another it's a tier 5 awesome firm. Harrison tier 5. But anyway, the time of your move is important, and you need to move at the right time, not the wrong time, as well as for the right and wrong reasons. Again, there's different times, for when you should move, but it has to be the right firm. Now, this is another one I've already covered, going in-house. I already gave you a lot of detail about going in-house. I don't know if I can even talk anymore about it because I don't want to bore people, and I hate talking about it. It's a dream for so many attorneys. People will submit their resumes to me all the time, and they'll be like, oh, do you have anything in-house? Do you have anything in-house? And I think it's many times because they don't understand how dangerous that decision is. Once you go in-house, you're never going to be able to return to a large law firm. I mean, I've seen it happen. I was talking to a guy, again, talk about Latham, that had an in-house, this guy in New York, and he was doing such good work. I met him through a friend or something, and he was a counsel there, and the kind of guy that was working like 3,500 hours a year in an in-house job, and they're like, we've never seen anything like this. The partners in New York, like, you're incredible. Like, if you ever need a job, and he decided to go work for them. So this is a firm that recognized greatness and brought him in, but most firms are never going to do something like that. And so the point is that that once you go in-house, it becomes almost next to impossible to go back to a law firm. They just don't, because they know you're going to leave again. You learn bad habits. It's like, it's like playing professional baseball and then joining a softball league or something and expecting, where you're pitching underhand. I mean, it's just, no, they're not interested. So that's just how it works. And it's a very significant decision. Most people don't understand the consequences of it when they make it. It's horrible. I mean, I see people all the time. I talk to people that have gone in-house that have these great records, and I'm like, maybe I can help them. And, there's horrible stuff happens. I mean, people will, be in Miami, and then they'll move their whole family to, some small town in Colorado or something where some company exists, and the company will be like, oh, we don't have the work anymore. And they let them go, and they're like, but wait a minute, I bought a house. What am I supposed to do for money? These are really bad things happen. It happens all the time. Or they lose their job, and then they can't find a job for months, and they have a family to support. It's scary. At least in a law firm, like if you're specialized and you have skills, like your career just continues. And wow. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but on the other hand, I have seen some incredible success stories, people going in-house. I'm just saying it's more risky. So the upside's high, and you could find a good company with a lot of work. But just look at these companies and look at all the layoffs. Who would ever thought that Amazon's laying all these people off? Who would ever thought about Twitter and Tesla and all these companies that have been laying people off, and Apple, and these are places that people would have died to go in-house. And who did they lay off first? They lay off in General Electric. I've talked to a lot of they lay off their attorneys and cost centers. So listen, these are not safe decisions, even if you think it's a freaking awesome company like Coinbase, like all these people. Like, this is not smart, guys and girls. It's not smart. at least law firms have sustainable business models that have been going on for hundreds of years. And again, this thing I told you earlier, Fortune 500, 1958 or whenever it first came out, none of those companies are in existence, maybe one or two anymore. They've all gone out of business. Whereas, law firms, there's tons of them that have been around since the 1800s. It's a better business model. Sorry, but it is. Working outside the office to generate business is a 16th, thing. I can't emphasize this enough. One of the most important things you can do is cultivate relationships that are likely to result in business for you in the future. Now, these need to be good relationships. I've seen people make some really freaking stupid mistakes. Like people that want to be like a entertainment attorney deciding to go to rock concerts every night is not the way to it. I mean, you need to meet with people that actually are going to have business in the future and identify those people. That means finding ways to make contact with people outside of work who are likely to give you and your firm business, meaning you have to be spending a significant portion of your time from the time you're a junior associate cultivating relationships. That doesn't mean you have work to offer them. That doesn't mean you need something from them right away. That means you need something from them in 25 years. Okay, I want to be very clear, or 10 years or 15 years. You are not, as a junior associate or even as a partner, you are not making and cultivating these relationships because you want to get something from these people right away. You're just there to be a resource if they ever reach out and have something to give you. So I want to be very clear. This is not, now certainly there are attorneys that go out and pitch people when they find work to be done, and that's fine. And that's a good way to get business. But the people that have the most business, they're just cultivating these relationships. They're being seen. So, I see attorneys all the time, like, they'll join a board of of a city or something. And, I'm like, why in the world would a frickin' attorney from, huge firm in Los Angeles, just say like Melvin E. Myers, want to be on the board of the city of Glendale, like spending his time doing that when he could be, well, the reason is because, and he doesn't have to ask for work, suddenly some huge matter comes up where they need to do a bond offering or something. And who do they think of? I mean, it's just, the point is that you get involved in the community, you get involved with, you talk to, you get out there, you're a resource for people, and then when they need you, you get business. Like, so, because you're seen, you're the most logical person. So if I have, just put it this way. So if I have a doctor that comes by my house, it just says, "Hey, how's it going? I'm just checking in, just wondering, what you're up to," and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, "Oh, not much." And he's like, "Hey, I'm having, just thought I'd see how you're doing." Well, and then he comes to barbecues and or whatever, just kind of in the neighborhood. And he's, well, if I get sick, I'm going to think of him, right? So this is how attorneys operate. Like, you're just seen. So the point is you're seen by people and in a positive way. And then if you're seen by people in a positive way, then when they have work, they're going to give it to you. It's not that you're going out and saying, "Hey, do you have any legal work?" and meeting someone at a party and suddenly getting legal work. No, you're just making contact, and you do that selectively with people that you think are going to be positioned. So joining organizations or giving talks is a very big one. So, people join these ridiculous organizations and, but they get business from it. Like, and they don't get business right away. It might take 10 years. It might take 20, but then things happen. I knew one partner that saved his career. He was on the board of a hospital. And I think it was like this, it was in a small city. It was like Downey Hospital or something. And then he didn't have any work and was getting close to losing his job. And he'd been on the board of this thing for like 10 years or 15. And all of a sudden they had this huge matter happen. And wow. And so they're going to start using this firm with New York billing rates and everything in Los Angeles. And it helped him and saved his career. So these things can happen. Writing articles, giving presentations. Like, I know some of these attorneys that I know that are very successful. I know one woman that, and I, talked to her quite a bit. Because she's my friend. She's an immigration attorney. She has got at different points in time, her immigration firm has done over $20 million a year in revenue, and she's the only partner. Okay, I want to be clear with you, $20 million a year from a frickin' immigration firm. And let me tell you what she does. She graduated from Southwestern Law School, probably with not very good grades. She's from another country, so she came over here and married someone that was a U.S. Her husband, and couldn't get a job because she went to Southwestern, is a good law school. It's a local law school in Los Angeles. But if you don't do well there, it's very difficult to get jobs. So couldn't get a job, figured out that maybe immigration law was good for her. Well, she has a very high profile in that industry, and it's going out and she's giving talks and nationally, like all over the country. Like, I think yesterday she was in Seattle, and 2 days before she was in Texas, and she's giving talks. She's on the news every night. She's got a studio, not every night, but she's got a studio in her own house where so this is what people do. Like, you have to get out there and be seen because, her phone is ringing off the hook with people needing her help. She's got clients all over the world. And so this is what you need to do. You need to be seen. And the only way you're ever going to get control of your legal career is if you have a book of business, and you need to be outside the office doing that. No partner this is the bleakest possible existence is sitting in an office hoping you're going to get clients when you're not doing anything outside the office. This is insane. Like, this is what people do, are hoping that some partner is going to magically give you work. No, you need to be sowing the roots to have a business come in the future. And if you don't do that, you're going to be in huge trouble. I speak of attorneys every day or senior having portable business. I used to have an office in downtown Los Angeles, and they used to come into my office all the time because I had a reputation. Some National Law Journal or something wrote an article about me. I don't know if it was a National Law Journal, but the publication was saying I was the only attorney in the country that was getting all these, not the only attorney, but I was a recruiter that had a reputation or something for getting people jobs. And then they put this in a recruiter profile, like that was some list of all these recruiters or something. So I had all these senior attorneys with no business coming to see me, and they would say things like, well, I'm thought of very highly as a mentor of young associates. No one cares. Like, again, like these mentors and things are definitely have a place, and it's a good thing. But what helps you get in control, these people are in control of other people control them and make them feel badly. So you only get control of your life and your career if you have portable business. So if you don't, you're going to be unhappy and under the control of other people for your compensation, for whatever, for your entire career. And they will pay you less. You will have to feel like you're being done a favor by having a job. It will be in very, very bad shape. So some people are liked and can do that. God, I was at a firm once, and this is this New York-based firm, and there was a guy that was a senior associate, and he was like, at that point was, been a senior associate for 15 plus years. And, and these partners would travel with him, and he would carry their bags and run and get them food and stuff. And this is, a 40-year-old man, so it's sad. They would make fun of him when he wasn't there and call him. No, why do you want that? All you need to do is get business and get out there. You just need to meet people. So many people spend their careers getting work from others. And so if one person in your firm decides to turn off the work spigot, your career can end abruptly. I get these calls all the time. It's just, I'm sorry to put my hand on my thing, but it's insane. Like someone doing some sort of work, and all of a sudden, for one client, all of a sudden, the firm decides that the work, the client decides to go elsewhere, and then the person calls me, and I'm like, they need help, and then I'm like, well, you need to do this and this and this, and they're just devastated. And of course, they don't follow my advice some of the time because they think they know better. Which is fine, but and again, I'm not attacking people for doing that, but I'm saying they might be at a big firm, like just say like a really prestigious firm somewhere, and at that big firm, they may believe that they're suddenly going to they're at this very prestigious firm, and because they're at this very prestigious firm, they only should be looking at other firms that are of equal prestige, and but then the work's all gone, they're losing their job, and I give them 10 suggestions of firms that are maybe a little bit smaller, and they decide instead to work they want to work at a small firm. They won't go to work at a small firm, only another big one. I mean, it's just, and then they sit around. I mean, it's anyway. So just one screw up, one upsetting the wrong person for your career to come to an end. One major slowdown in the market, your career comes to an end if you don't have any business. So if you don't have business, you won't survive, and you'll have problems, and it's just will eventually happen. Other people I've seen, again, I know one partner or several that didn't develop books of business, and they made partner in firms, and then, but then there's so much stress associated with it. They become alcoholics, or have to smoke pot for several hours a night just very unhappy. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of this. I mean, you can certainly do what you want with substances, but the point is I think it makes them unhappy because the people that they're working for often are the ones that are in control, and you need to generate steps. You need to make sure you take steps to generate a book of business at all stages of your legal career. You need to lay the groundwork. Again, I tell the story every week, but the most successful attorneys will say to themselves, I'm going to bill 2,500 hours a year billing hours, and I'm going to bill another 2,500 hours a year developing contacts. And this is the thought process you need to have if you want to be at the top of your game. And I'm just going to be the one to tell it to you. I'm telling you this because I remember my first, when I went to University of Chicago, the average grade point coming out of there was like a 2.3 or something. And that's what I think it's higher now, but there's that's what they told us when we got there. It's like 2.3. I don't even know what that is, C+ or something. And this is, a long time ago. And so, my first semester, I think I got like a 3.4 or something. I went to see my advisor, and I was like, isn't this great? Like this. And she's like, oh, no, it's not. Like, hardly anybody from here, it's very hard to get into top law school because you need to have, you need to do a little bit better than that. And I'm like, well, do better. I mean, how's it even possible? Because everyone I know doesn't have these good grades. Well, the point is that's the thermometer. So the thermometer, then if you want to go to get into like your top 5 law schools from there, you needed to have like a 3.5 or above, and which put you probably in the top 5% of your class, or maybe even better. But that was what they want. That's what the top law schools expected. So, and it's the same thing now. I mean, you need to have like a 4.0 or whatever average from, but the point is that the thermometer is, if you want to develop business, I'm just telling you, people that generate huge books of business, like they're not just working 2,000 hours a year, 2,500. They're also dedicating 1,000 or 1,500 or 2,000. Partners in all firms that get business do it. This is what they do. So they don't stick around in the office. They just get out there and meet people. And I've told you this, and I'm pounding it into you again and again and again. They may not act like they are. They might talk about that they are. But that's what they do. Now, some people get lucky and people give them clients and things, but this is what you need to do. The next one is joining the firm for the right reasons. There's right and the wrong reasons to join a law firm. Young attorneys don't know what they're doing. A lot of older attorneys even don't know what they're doing, but people will join law firms because of the prestige level, sometimes the compensation, or because it feels safe. There's lots of reasons for joining a law firm. The most important one, I believe personally, this is my thought. I've talked a lot today about the quality of the work that they do. I've talked about all these other things. My belief is that the most important reason for joining a law firm is to work for people that you feel support you and who are like you. If you're around a group of people where you feel supported and it feels safe and there's some sort of connection, then I believe you're better off than if the people aren't like you. So there is a difference between being on the inside and the outside of firms, and sometimes that can take time, but you get a sense of it. I mean, I can walk into any firm and get a sense of whether or not that firm is like me, and whether those sorts of people are the sorts of people that I would get along with. I really can very quickly, and I think you can too. I've had experiences where I've walked in a firm and I felt like like I could hug everyone there, and they were giving me, I mean, just nice people and really comfortable and a warm feeling, just a good vibe with the people there. And whereas other people could walk in the same firm and feel extremely uncomfortable. I walked in the firm I remember it was downtown Los Angeles once. I was in this firm, and I felt like I was going to be killed practically. It was just so antiseptic and quiet. It was all this like very old, like French type furniture, and but it was very just crazy. Like it was, I mean, a weird place, and so it's just different places. You need to be comfortable around the people, and you need to feel like they'll protect you, and you can get that sense with people early on. There's tribes. I mean, people gravitate towards different groups of people, and so you're often much better off at a less prestigious firm with people like you than ones that aren't. One of the saddest things that I ever saw was I had a guy that had clerked for the same judge that I did, and he was had two choices where to work. He wanted to he was in San Francisco and wanted to get a job, and I got him a job at the only firm in San Francisco that was full of serious Republicans in the city that was the most liberal city on earth. And they were like, "Oh, we never have ever used a recruiter, but we can't believe you brought us this diehard Republican with all this." He was president of Federalist Society and all this stuff. And again, I'm not saying that I have anything. I'm not political one way or another. This judge that I worked for was very Republican, and so was this guy. But the point is that, and then he got another offer, I think, from a great firm, Weil Gotshal in New York, that was paying a lot of money. Well, he went to work there, and instead of taking this job, and had a very bad experience, and has been a contract attorney since then. Now, there's nothing wrong being a contract attorney, but he probably would be a partner at this Republican firm and very happy and doing all sorts of things had he made that choice instead of going to a firm where he felt burned out. And he's not from a big city, so he was probably very uncomfortable in New York City and all these other things, but they were paying him double. And so that was not a good decision. So I just want to make sure you kind of understand that joining with the right people can change your life. And so you're better off at a smaller firm where you're comfortable with people than some big cold institution many times. You just need to be very careful. Okay, so this is the final decision, and then we're finally done with this. But looking for a position in the correct way. So I could talk all day about this. I've been researching how people can get jobs every day. I do take time off on Sundays, or Saturdays, but I'm usually reading books about business. But every day for 25 plus years. And I talk to attorneys seeking jobs every day. I talk to partners looking for jobs. I talk to, and without a doubt, almost everyone thinks they know how to look for a position. And so you need to look, and again, do I know how to look for a position? No, I'm learning new things every day. So if I believe I know how to look for a position, but when I say I'm learning things, I mean, I'm on conference calls with 15 or 20 of my employees every morning for 2 to 3 hours with technical people and data scientists. And I still don't know how to look for a position. I've been doing that every day. I start my day at 4 a.m. and again, knowing how to look for a position, but I'll talk more about that in a second. But once you start practicing law, I'll tell you, one of the worst things you can do is stop practicing. For a lot of people, this can mean the game is over and doesn't have to end. But a lot of times people, when they look for positions, don't look for positions in ways that are counterproductive and, don't help them. So I want to, make a couple quick points, and I'm going to get a little personal here in nature, not that personal, but I want to make you aware of a couple of things that I think are interesting. So a lot of times people will meet someone of the opposite sex, and they'll think, "Oh, this person likes me. Aren't I great? Let's get married. Isn't this great? Let's get married." Well, in the opposite sex, there's or the same sex. If you want to be in a same sex relationship, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, but they'll think, isn't this great? I've met the person of my dreams. And it could be the first person you've ever dated romantically seriously. It could be the 10th, but there's lots of people out there that you can meet. Like and if things aren't working out, you have lots of other options. But a lot of times people don't think they have those options. It's just insane. Because there's millions of people out there that you could meet of the same sex or opposite sex, if that's what's interesting to you. If whatever you want to have, I mean, you could meet millions of people. I mean, and so, but people, settle in. Same thing with jobs. There's so many freaking opportunities out there. Again, I work with 35,000 law firms. Okay, this is how many firms I work with. Now most recruiters, because the recruiting industry is different than the legal platform industry, which is what BCG is. It's a legal platform. So, we'll work with a few firms and have a few options, but or maybe we work with 50 firms or 100. I'm not criticizing recruiters because I think they're awesome. But the point is that you have a lot of options, and a lot of times attorneys will go into their job searches just believing that they know a few things. Like I say things that are incredible. Like, I would never work at Skadden, for example. Like, well, Skadden, fine. Like, people say bad things about Skadden, but Skadden has multiple departments. It has multiple offices. It has, so people come up with these stupid notions, and they make huge mistakes when conducting job searches, where to apply, all these things that have massive, profound, long-term consequences. So again, just listen to Harrison Barnes. And I'm just saying one thing. I've been doing this for 25 plus years. Okay. And I do it from 4 a.m. till, 6:30 or 7 o'clock every single night. And I do not take anything for granted. So, and I'm learning new stuff all day and every day. So I'm going to tell you some things that I know that I think are true. But you should not, anytime you're questioning things, I would never apply there. I would never work in the city. I would never do that type of work. I would never work there because I've heard bad things about this partner. I'm going to apply there on my own because I know someone there. Like, all these types of, fine, you do what you want. I mean, again, that's a whole separate discussion, but like, these are, people make the dumbest mistakes. Like, so here are the big ones. The first one, which is absolutely, completely bonkers. It's the dumbest possible thing you could do. So here's what I do at BCG. Like, if you come to work, if you're one of our candidates at BCG and you want to get a job, I'll send you, I put 5 jobs in your account. If you approve 3 of them, I'll give you 5 more. And because I don't want you stealing our contacts, or because a lot of things I'm giving are not just jobs or exclusive jobs, or they're contacts of firms that I know hire people all the time from us. And I want to be very careful. And sometimes they're jobs that the employers don't want, they know that people have, they're only selling what. But anyway, so we're only put 5 at a time. But here's what happens. Like, you get 5 jobs to start, but if you keep going, and you're really looking for a job and you're looking in a bunch of different areas, I'll give you 5,000. I'll give you 10,000 if you want, because I don't care. It's a lot of work for our staff, and we may lose money on you if you're applying to too many places, and I don't care. But you have to apply to a lot of places. Like, this is what it is. Like, in LA, if I want to be a litigator, I could apply to 3,000 or 4,000 law firms that have good litigation practices. That's just LA County. That's probably, that's downtown in Los Angeles and some other cities, but there's a lot of places to work. But for whatever reason, people get a few firms in their mind. They think, I'm only interested in these big firms that are in NALP or something. What the hell? Are you freaking crazy? There's in LA, there's thousands of personal injury firms. There's thousands of people that do trust in estates. But most people limit themselves to just a few or a handful of firms and applying to firms. This is the dumbest possible thing you could do. Wow. I don't even know what to say. Applying to a lot of firms. I talked earlier about finding a group of people that are like you. Talked earlier about finding firms that have opportunity where there's work. I talked about finding firms where you're comfortable and happy. And so if you don't apply to a lot of places, that's like marrying the first person you date, or only believing that one person is a good person for you to go out and a date with because you've heard good things about them and other people have said nice things about them. Well, frankly, there's thousands of people or millions you can date, and there's tens of thousands of law firms that you could apply to. Now, I'm not saying you should apply to tens of thousands of law firms, but what I am saying is why not find someone that's a good fit for you, or find a firm that's a good fit for you, as opposed to only looking at a few places. This ends, stunts, crazy, just dumbest possible move in your career. Like, I just don't get it. Like, wow. Like, and again, I'm saying this with this much emphasis because I've seen this happen so many times. And I've seen these a lot of times the people that refuse to do this are people that think very highly of themselves because they went to good schools and they work at a big firm, and they're very concerned about their brands and what other people think of them. And they would never in a million years expose the brand to another firm because they're just at higher quality than that. And they've heard bad things, and firms don't care. Like, I mean, well, first of all, like, that's dumb. Like, I had a guy in, where was he? He was like in, something happened to him. He was in Fresno, something, I don't know. But another one of these people that went in-house. It was, big job. I think he moved from, big firm, Washington, D.C. to some in-house job in Fresno. And of course, what happens is the firm went out of business that he worked for. He got fired or something. So he needed a job. And I was like, okay, well, no problem. You were only there 3 months. I bet I can get you back into a law firm, but you're going to need to look at a lot of places. And he's like, well, I'm coming from Williams and Connolly. I would never, I'm just making that firm up. He wasn't at Williams and Connolly, which is another freaking awesome firm. But I would never in a million years consider applying to some of these firms of this caliber that you're mentioning. And I'm like, no, like, you have to. Well, again, long story short, the guy like considered some firms and thought about it and ended up applying to like 3 firms in LA and didn't get anything and waited. He's like, why can't you get me a job? And I'm like, well, I can't get you a job because no firm's going to hire some guy in Fresno from in-house, even if he did work at Williams and Connolly. Are you out of your mind? And then the guy started telling me I was ineffective and not doing it. Well, can you call them? I'm like, no, I can't call them. I can't change your resume. Calling them to convince them. I can call them and say nice things about them, but it's not going to work. Like, I told them, you need to apply to like hundreds of places probably, because no one is going to be interested in some freaking litigator that went in-house to in Fresno to defend the company against workers that are suing it because of bad wage. No. So the point is, like, countless, and this guy's career is dead. Like, another person very depressed and probably got divorced. This is insane. This is what people do all the time. Like, this is an epidemic in the legal profession of not applying to enough places. And when you're looking for a new position, you also need to look where the jobs are. So a lot of people don't find enough positions because they're not looking in enough areas. So if you are stuck in Reno, Nevada, and you're a patent attorney and you're trying to get another job in Reno, that's probably not a good place to be looking for freaking patent jobs, right? You need to look at new places. I have patent attorneys all the time. I place them all the time. I'll take someone in, I had a partner recently that was laid off from a big firm in, Chicago. And he did something really special with lasers and, something weird with lasers that were shooting out of satellites or something. Something really cool that he had experience in. Well, he was in his late 60s and didn't have any business. Well, no problem. I found a firm in, I believe it was in, Louisiana or something weird like that did it. And he got a job and they couldn't believe they found each other. So you need to, and all I did was search our database for the type of laser he worked on. I found another firm that did it, and he couldn't believe someone else. These sorts of things happen. And, but people don't look at enough geographic areas. And the guy moved his whole family to Louisiana. This happens all the time. And again, a lot of attorneys use legal recruiters and not people that do what I do for their searches. So this is not, my opportunity here to say bad things about people in my industry, because I'm not going to do it. But the point is that if you're using recruiters, like they have, my company is a data-driven, data science, research company that's been around for 25 years. We started Law Crossing, which was the first legal job site, I think, and has been in operation for 20 plus years and has developed intelligence about every frickin' law firm in the country with hundreds of millions of dollars in investments. I mean, like, you know, there's different ways to look for a job. You can use data or you can use individuals with a few contacts. Now that works. I don't want to say anything wrong about recruiters because there's actually some incredible recruiters out there with very good contacts. They can actually convince people very effectively inside of law firms to hire you. And I have some very successful recruiters that have worked here in the past or are here that are very good at that. And I'm not criticizing it. But the point is that what happens to most people that work with recruiters is they call them, the recruiter will have a few ideas for them. And most of the time they don't pan out. The recruiter may have some more ideas, but probably not. And then you get ghosted. And if you're relying on that to get a job, that's a problem. And I don't like that. It makes me sad because I've seen a lot of careers end like that. When you come to BCG, I don't give up on you. I just don't want to go anybody. You can call me a name and I'll call you back and I'll say, fine, you can hate me, but you know, I'm just here to help you and do, frankly, what I consider God's work, helping people that are trying to help themselves, but and move people from darkness into light and all these sorts of things. But it's not about money for me. It's about something else. But, you know, again, a lot of recruiters will go into this as a second job. It's a second career because they don't want to work hard and think they can make money doing this. And they band together in groups of people that, you know, where they all talk about their clerkships or whatever, where they went to school, but the big firms they worked at. And this is about advocacy and you know, getting you out there and research and all this. And again, there's very good recruiters out there, and I'm not criticizing them because some of them are exceptional, but it's like anything. I mean, there's good doctors and bad doctors. I was talking to a doctor the other day, and he said, you know, most doctors are bad doctors. They can't diagnose problems. They make bad diagnoses. They're lazy. It's like anything. And it's like that with this business too. And so I wanted to make a couple observations to you that I think are important. This business is so complex. The idea of what it takes to find you a job is so complex that you can't understand it. One recruiter can't understand it. And even, you know, I mean, even, you know, the $100+ million that I've developed and put into our database is probably hundreds of millions when you take all the employee cost. But I'm just talking about, you know, investment and programming, like is can't understand it completely. You know, so it's very complex. And so you just need to understand that any individual that thinks they know everything probably doesn't know anything. So I'm telling you, I don't know anything. I know a little bit, enough to help you. But I do know that you need to apply to a lot of places because I can't decide what's good for you in terms of the culture and stuff. I may know something about the culture, but you're only going to understand the culture when you walk in there and see what it feels like. There's certain people, by the way, and I'm sure you meet them, where you meet them and you feel very comfortable and at ease and happy. There's other people where you meet them and you feel the energy's off. You just feel really weird and don't feel good about them. Well, it's like that with law firms. I cannot make that decision about the culture for you, how you're going to feel. I mean, come on. Like, so, you know, reading about the culture is one thing, but you have to be out there and feeling it and seeing it to really do it. So a lot of attorneys don't make themselves, aware of all the opportunities in the client that are out there in the market. So a lot of attorneys, if you're looking for research, you're going to use Lexis and all these things you're going to pay for, but you're not going to bring the same rigors of research when you're doing your job search. Well, your job search should involve doing all sorts of research. I do research on Google for all of my candidates to find new firms that aren't in frickin' directories and stuff yet. Like, and attorneys would never even do that for themselves. Like this is a real job. There's a lot to it. And if you want to do a good job search for yourself, not only should you be looking at every resource you possibly can. I think Law Crossing is a good resource. That's a company that I own. I think that the archive jobs on Law Crossing are the best resource in the freaking legal profession because you can go and see every firm that's had jobs for the past 25 years in your practice area, searching by keywords, and that's where you should apply. You don't need Harrison. You can do that on your own. That's a very good resource. Like something like that could, again, change your career. Law Crossing Archives, one piece of research advice I'm giving you, if you understand how to use it. And again, I spent a lot of my time recruiting. I'm not saying Law Crossing is a perfect website or anything by any stretch of imagination. It needs a lot of work as far as I'm concerned. But these are the sorts of things that you need. And again, I'm not saying in the negative sense. I'm saying like I can make it even better, and that makes me excited. But you need to bring research to your career. Public job sites are dangerous, man. Like, let me explain to you why sites like Indeed and these things are dangerous. They're dangerous because everybody can access them, and everybody does, and sends their jobs to the same, sends their applications to the same firm. So if you want to get a job at a big firm, and that big firm's advertised on Indeed, well, guess what? Every attorney sitting in their office all over the country is also sending them applications. Do you honestly think you're going to get a job there? You may, but you're only going to get it if you're the best applicant. So that's a tool. Like what Law Crossing does is Law Crossing goes and finds all the jobs on websites that no one knows about. It finds jobs in all these little things and can help you with those applications because no one else is applying to them. It's finding them on little directories and things. And now, is it all the jobs there? No. Does it have all the jobs there? Indeed, yes. But at the same time, it's going to have things that other people aren't applying to, which means you're going to have a better chance getting a job. I'm just telling you, like, this is the advantage of that site. People, again, anything that costs money, I think it's $25 a month or something, and free for $5 from first. I don't know what it is, but anything that costs money, people think, oh, people are trying to steal from me. No one's stealing from you by giving you research that's going to change your life. And again, go look at the Law Crossing Archives for jobs. And again, the other thing is, you need to know what's out there and not miss anything. There may be firms and things you want to work at that you can find. And I do not recommend, by the way, I want to be very clear with you. I don't always recommend most of the people that I get jobs for. And I want to make sure everyone understands this, because this is, again, something that's going to change your life if you understand it. And because it's going to challenge everything that you believe. 85% of the placements that I make are, and I want to make sure you listen and understand this, 85% of the placements that I make, and I make a lot of placements, okay, and I want to make sure everyone understands this, are not with firms that send us jobs and say, hey, can you find me a person for this? They're not with firms that have jobs on their websites and say, they're my clients. They are with firms that don't currently have openings. 85%. So what does that mean? The only thing that means is it means that I have the balls to get my candidates to, and again, I'm sorry for using that term, but I have the guts, I guess is what I'll say, to send my candidates to firms that don't have jobs because I know I can understand the market by using tools like data science and things to know the types of firms that hire people on an ongoing basis, even if they don't have them, or to find firms that are good firms for people. So if you're like a trust and estate planning attorney and you work on clients that have $100 million type of estates and you do nothing but that in LA, well, I probably know the 20 firms that do that work, even if they don't have openings. And this is the smart thing to do. And you probably don't even know those 20 firms. You might know one or two of them because you've heard about them, but you're not going to know them. So this is that makes a difference. This is how I change people's lives. Law Crossing Archives has this, but you don't just want to you need to find firms that do the kind of work that you do, and not just firms with openings. Most people apply only to openings. I have clients candidates all the time that they're like, they might be in I don't know, whatever market. Let's take Chicago, and they call a local recruiter and they say, do you have any jobs? And I'm like, yeah, we've got these 3 jobs. And every recruiter's got these 3 jobs or 5 jobs. And they say, do you have anything else? I'm like, no, I'm sorry. And you're like, are you kidding? Like, I was laid off from Kirkland. I went to Northwestern. I was ordered the call. If you don't have anything else, no. Well, that person, by the way, comes to Harrison. I'll send them 300 or 400 jobs if they want in Chicago and get them something. But no one can buy into this psychology, which is that firms hire people that don't have openings because the reason is because you're the only applicant, Dumbo. Like, sorry to say it, you're the only applicant. Like, you're the only person expressing interest in working there. It's like they don't have to go out and advertise and sort through resumes. You're the only applicant. Why wouldn't they hire you if they have the work? They can make money. They've got the work. Why wouldn't they hire you? Dumbo. So this is how it works. It's not like you're some arrogant person and you're not going to sacrifice your brand by applying to some firm. I mean, this is what dumb people do. Their ego is bigger than their mind. So I'm a salesman. I'm a advocate. I'm an attorney. But I'm telling you, on all my years of experience of having hundreds of thousands, I mean, this is the only thing that works. And so I'm just telling that works for everyone, and it can change your life. And I want to make sure that everyone understands this. Applying to just openings on public job sites, law crossings behind a paywall. Again, $5 a month. Why is it $5? Because I don't want everyone applying to the same jobs. I would make it $100 or $1,000 if I could to make it less, but I wanted people to have access to it. So these are things that you need to do. And doing anything less than this is just a huge risk. You need to apply to every place you possibly can. And you don't need to do it through me. Now, it's often helpful to have a good agent like myself because it comes with a sense of, but no, you can do it on your own. It doesn't matter. But you need to do this. And I'm just trying to help you. And this will change your life if you understand it. So again, the most interesting thing about my job, I think, is examine the quality of decisions attorneys make with I speak along the way. These decisions are going to determine the quality you make, the quality of your life, and they're going to determine what happens to you. Most attorneys, by the way, don't make the right decisions, and it's sad. I know that if they made better decisions, they could have done much better. If you are listening to this and watching it, I think it's probably getting knowledge and learning from others, especially that have experience, is the smartest possible decision you can make with your career. Because it doesn't matter in this career and this profession. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be. It doesn't matter how anything. It doesn't. Nothing. Your honesty matters. Your integrity matters. But what matters is your quality of your decisions and learning and making sure you're making good ones. And everyone has potential. And by using this potential, in the proper way and making good decisions, you're gonna have a much better future. And again, I've told you lots of stories today about people, and I love winners and people that come back and use their strength and their skill to do well. That makes me very happy, and people that make good decisions. And these are not, by the way, none of the stuff I've talked to you about today requires any special skill. I mean, it's about character, and it's about, making sure that, you're really doing the right things and making the good decisions and using information that's out there and listening to people that can give you advice. And, the final thing is, it is very difficult practicing law, and there are a lot of, dangers, for people. So making the right decisions, I think, will help you. So again, I'm going to take another quick break, just like 1 or 2 minutes. I just want to, I have someone outside my door. I need to answer a question for them. And then I will be back. And then again, as many questions as you have, typically I will stay as long as I need to answer them and give as good of answers as I can to anything that came up today or any other questions. I'll try to answer questions related to the webinar probably first, and then after that, I'll come back. I'll answer any other questions that are relevant to anything we talked about today. So thank you. All right, so we are at questions. Okay, so the first question is, I had a difficult trajectory coming from a top 10 law school. First, I didn't properly prepare for my summer law firm interviews and stuck it out at a big law firm. I applied to summer positions, landed a small firm, worked hard, and got an offer. Unfortunately, I did not seek out a more prestigious position and went to the smaller firm in a smaller market. Then I lost my job a month ago, and just a few months in. I feel like I'm checking all the boxes being the worst possible situation. Your seminar, now I'm unemployed coming from a small market with no background in big law. I feel completely hosed and almost not even like asking if big law is possible or how can I get things back in track. So yes, of course you can get back in big law. That's insane. Like again, you're just a new graduate, 26, 25, whatever years old, and your career is going to go on another 60 or 70 years. So no, of course you can get another big law firm. you may not have gotten a summer position for whatever reason. I don't know, but I just would recommend, if I was you, I would recommend getting into any type of firm you possibly can at this point in your career. I would try to go to a larger market, maybe where there's more opportunities, or you can open your own practice. I don't care. Just because you're not getting a job at a big firm does not mean you're not going to be a successful attorney. Again, the example I gave earlier was the person with a $20 million book of business that came out of Southwestern Law School and couldn't get a job. So anybody can get a job. It's just not, and have a successful career. And what I like too is, I'll just tell you, I had some weird experiences. I've gone into environments where I was told that I shouldn't be doing it just based on the reactions I was getting. I had an interesting experience years ago where I just decided to take this acting class and these acting seminars, and months later, I found myself like in Italy with these very well-known actors, and they thought I was a freaking amazing actor. And I was like, and they're like, I can't believe it. It's like, I was floored. And I mean, and hearing this from, producers and things, I mean, well-known casting directors. And I mean, I never would have thought in a million years that I would get a rosy reception. I was just kind of having fun and going around and, doing something because I met someone at, that I met through Tony Robbins or something, that was an acting coach. And, you never know like what doors are going to open to you. And again, I'm not doing that because this is my first love. I don't want to do anything but this. And so that's why I'm not doing that. But, who knows what would have happened. But I'm saying, sometimes doors will open to people. And if you're not getting the doors open for you at, in law firms, and other things can open. So I'll tell you a kind of a story. I had this guy working for me years ago. It was like 20 years ago, and he had gone to some college in California and done really well, and then been, but he was probably like, if you looked at him, you would say, this is the nerdiest guy I've ever seen, and it was kind of funny. I mean, he also had self-confidence, but he just looked really nerdy and with glasses and awkward demeanor and how he dressed, with kind of these pants up to. It was just funny, and but he didn't care. I mean, he was anyway. He'd gone to Columbia Law School and did well, but didn't get a summer associate job. I don't even know. And then moved back to LA with his parents, and couldn't get a job. I saw him in our database. I called him in. I'm like, why don't you come to work for me? Just helping me with stuff while I'm helping you find a job, because I'm very just upset that someone from Columbia Law School is not getting a job. So I did this thing where I printed up, resumes for him to, 1,000 firms in LA. And he went out and interviewed with a bunch of them. And he was so nerdy looking and socially incompetent and everything. And I'm not saying this in a negative way, but no one was hiring him. And, but when he was working for me, he had a real interest in computers and building computers and programming computers. And so he started, building these computers and selling these computers. And pretty soon he started showing up late for work because he was making all this money, build a computer for cost him $300. He'd sell for $1,000. He was just making thousands of dollars. And pretty soon he had a big business. And by that point, he was programming our database. He's one of the first programmers we had on BCG. And much happier doing that. And he had so much self-confidence that he got from this. And all these law firms were calling him all day, asking him to build computers and building networks and having people help him. And he built this big business. And, so sometimes things go in a way where things happen to you and you don't know why they're happening. In my case, I quit my job to start this recruiting business. Without anything lined up. I thought I was going to take some clients, but then my law firm, when I quit, said, why don't you take a couple months and talk to recruiters and we'll continue paying you, because we don't think you should leave because you'll have a really hard time finding a job. If you leave without something lined up, they'll think you were fired. I was like, no problem. And then I started talking to recruiters and realized none of them knew what they were talking about. And I really liked, and again, I'm not saying all recruiters are bad, because, but at that point, and I was like, wow, what a great opportunity. How come there's no one helping attorneys? And so sometimes things will happen to you. This pain you're going through, I'm just saying, is good. and because it's forcing you in another direction, and that direction obviously may be positive for you. Look what happened to the guy that worked for me, and I've got tons of stories like this of people that come to work for me, how they found their path, and you can find your path too. And big law certainly is possible, but if these doors aren't opening to you, why is that? I mean, is it? I don't know. I mean, what do is that the only door for you? Because honestly, like there's I mean, you can be a car salesman and make $500,000 a year selling cars in a dealership in Los Angeles. It's not that hard. You can be a real estate agent in Los Angeles with a good personality. And there's lots of people in where I live that are real estate agents that make, $5+ million a year, that were attorneys. They never would make that much. I mean, you can do all sorts of things where you can make a lot of money or have a very successful career that doesn't involve big law. It's a certain type of personality. It's a certain type of, it's certain types of people. And just because you don't fit in somewhere or not getting, the doors aren't opening, it's just God or whatever pushing you in another direction. So I really, frankly, if I was you, you feel badly about it now, but I do not think it's something that you should be concerned about by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it's that big of a deal because I think all this is going to push you in a different direction. Just like it does everyone. You need, I don't know if I told this story last week, but there's a story that I like to tell, and it's about when a giraffe's born. And when a giraffe's born, it kind of plops out of its mother's womb, and it stands right up because it can, I guess. I mean, that's how they're born. And the mother takes her neck and knocks it down, and then it stands up and she knocks it down again, and she knocks it down until it's practically having could hardly just dizzy and everything. And the reason the giraffe mother does that to the giraffe is because it's going to be chased by hyenas and all these things, and it may fall down while it's running, but it needs to be able to get back up very quickly and be alert that it could be, and it's a blessing that she does that. So it's the same thing, sometimes when you have setbacks, that's a blessing because it's going to make you stronger and push you in a different direction. If I was sitting in a law firm today, and hadn't had to quit my job in a law firm and talk to other recruiters, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And so that's a blessing. So it's just, you have all these things that'll come your way. If the girl that didn't get a job at Southwestern, and I was on the news all the time talking about immigration law and is famous. I mean, these are famous in that industry. Are all things that benefit you. So there's nothing wrong with it. In the long run, it doesn't look like it at the time, but they are. Could benefit and participate in internships, clearly experience with a law student's career prospect. Yes, of course. Anything you do can help you. Now, one thing I would say about internships and clinical experiences, they should be related to your practice area that you want to do. So if you're helping prisoners get out of jail and you don't want to do criminal law or criminal defense, it's probably not a good use of your time if you want to do corporate law. They should be related to your practice area. So what I'd like to see is that when anybody does something, like you want to be like, for example, I tell this example a lot, but you want to be like a healthcare attorney and you used to be a nurse before going to law school. Well, that's great. So you should be doing things related to healthcare internships in law firms or legal, things related to healthcare law if you want to do that, because what employers want to see is a continuity of your experience related to your practice area. That's all. And so once they have that, they're going to be much better off and happier, and you're going to have a better chance getting a job. Okay, let's see. Okay, these are great questions, by the way. Thank you, everyone who's asking them. Let me just see here. Having just finished a clerkship and looking to evaluate the next steps, I'm wondering what the pros and cons of pursuing corporate law versus continuing government work with exit options that may be more limited. Further, could either open up possibilities for the DOJ, SEC positions on the line. What should I weigh when considering taking the big law money and prestige versus staying in government work and better long-term benefits? Okay, so I think if you are even thinking about this, you should probably stay in the government, because certain people will look at the government and it will be appalling to them. Meaning, it's not they'll automatically not appalling, but it's just it doesn't something that they wouldn't even consider. So I had that experience. I worked in the Justice Department in Washington D.C. my first summer. And I was working with these people. I couldn't believe how talented. I mean, they're from Yale and all this stuff, and Stanford Law School, like these young attorneys. But I, at the time, was like, this is something I would never do. How could people possibly do it? And then I would leave the main justice building. I would walk down the street, and I would see attorneys from these big firms, and I could tell that they were attorneys, and they looked just so much more vibrant and happy. And so that to me. It looked like a better life. It certainly wasn't. But if you're thinking about working in the government, there's certain people that it appeals to. I had an experience a couple of weeks ago when I met all these people from the State Department, and I thought that looked really freaking cool. And what they were doing looked cool. I would think it'd be fun to work with the State Department. I mean, and that particular type of government work appealed to me. Just it was working in the justice that didn't, But so the point is, like, if something appeals to you and you're comfortable, it's probably what you should be doing. So you're even asking about working in a law firm. If you work in a law firm, yes, if you work in the right, you could certainly, if you're a litigation attorney in a big law firm, you certainly could go into the government later, and you will be, because everyone there knows what big law schools and big clerkships and big law firms mean. So a lot of people do. This will be the only opportunity that you have to work in the law firm in your career if you do it. So unless you become like the SEC commissioner or something. So I definitely would recommend, if I was you, if you're comfortable with the government, not interested in the money, then I would think that would be a good option. But I do think getting the training of a big law firm would be useful for you early in your career. And I think that, when you're considering the big law money and prestige versus staying in the government work, better benefits. I think having the big law experience for 2 or 3 years or even 4 years will make you a better attorney and will give you perspective. So, and shape your mind in different ways that the government wouldn't. So how do I say that? Because you'll be working when you work for the government, your client is the government. When you work for a big law firm, you get exposed to all sorts of different clients and matters, and you have all sorts of different stories and ideas and things. You get exposed to different partners and their styles of working. And so I think that could be a better benefit. If you go to a prestigious law firm, you're going to have the opportunity to go to the government later because they know what that means. So I would probably, if I was you, I would go get the training for 4 or 5 years in a big law firm, get paid a lot of money, and then see how you feel after that. Because you're going to learn a lot. Why wouldn't you? Okay, let me see here. Okay, let me see. I'm just reading this question before I ask it because I want to make sure it's something that can help. Sometimes these questions are pretty funny. They're like crazy, like not crazy, but crazy in a good way. But I don't want to shock people with them, so I look at them sometimes when this was not one that's crazy. But when I say crazy in a good way, they're like something that would shock you, like having an affair and and I don't want to put myself in trouble by commenting on it. So. Okay, I have a counterpart to your story about hours. This is just the associate who lost his job at a small firm that was slow. I've asked questions in previous weeks. Okay, I worked in litigation in a 2-person department, and the work was extremely slow. The attorney seemed to have a little independent business and very little trickled down to me. My first 2 reviews, this firm, they were very harsh about my low hours because of lack of work. So I tried to build my hours, spending more time on matters they described. And then the 2 liars about me first because they didn't understand how some of it takes. Okay, this is not a good firm for you. I mean, so who cares? Like, it's like, again, not every relationship works out. Like, my I was in a relationship once with someone that, you know, couldn't be loyal to anyone, me included. And, that went on for a while. And so that's okay. I mean, that's the way that person is. This is the way this firm is. It's not your fault. So who cares? Don't worry about it. Like, again, you can't, these things, like, I'll just put it here. You can't worry about this stuff. Like, you can't control it. You didn't cause it. And you can't cure it. So don't worry about it. Cure it. None of this is your fault. Like, this is just the way the person is. It's your fault for even worrying about it. Like, certain people are criminals. I've met criminals before, and they're just criminals. They just will do whatever is criminal. That's just how they act. Now, I haven't met a lot of them, but I mean, I've met a couple. I'm like, why would this person even be thinking about it? I mean, and there's people that are just bad people. There's firms that are bad firms, and there's firms that are, but that's the way they are. And so your problem is worrying about it. Who cares? Just to work at another firm that's better. Like, this is not a good use of your time worrying about it. This firm has its own problems. This is a funny question. Sometimes I like these questions there. Okay, this question: is it worth it swapping big law for a boutique firm in the Midwest market experience, even if it means taking the pay cut? No, it's not. So no, you don't go to a big firm you don't you don't leave a big law firm unless you don't want to ever go back to a big law firm just to get a market experience. No, and no. So, I mean, again, I'm not trying to be rude, but this is no. You only leave firms if you have to, or for firms if you need to improve your career. So you leave a firm if you have to improve your career. So how do you improve your career? You move to a bigger firm if you're at a smaller firm, or you move to a smaller firm where you can develop clients. You move to a firm where there's more people like you and you're going to be happier. You move to a firm where you absolutely do not want to work more than a certain, I mean, I don't know, but you move to a firm that's going to move you upwards as opposed to not sideways. No, you don't want to move sideways. That's crazy. Because this here, what do you do if you're short on hours at your big firm? Let's see here. Then you do the best you can to make more hours. So, so the way the billable hours work is kind of interesting. So it used to be that the way a law firm would work is, this is pretty funny actually, by the way, is that the file will come to the partner and the partner will pick it up and say, this looks like, about $3,000. So this is what you should send the client. Well, they found out when they didn't have the billable hours that the partners would always double. They would when you have billable hours, more money's collected. So the billable hours are one way of charging, but it's kind of charging for the effort, and they don't really know how to codify it, so they put it that way. So if you're coming up short, I guess if you're at a small firm, the clients probably aren't going to pay for a lot of work. So you need to be very careful. That's another point actually I wanted to bring up. So the last person said that I was billing too many hours at a small firm. Yes. So you cannot bill a lot of hours to clients at small firms. You cannot make up work and bill too many hours at small firms. You can do that with huge clients. The bigger the firm, the more hours you can bill, and the client doesn't care. Because who cares if you're generating billions of dollars a year in profit? I mean, they don't want to get ripped off, but I mean, they don't mind if you look deeply into matters because that's what they can afford. I mean, but smaller clients can't afford it. So you cannot bill a lot of hours to clients at a smaller firm. If anything, you're more valuable if you don't. So, smaller law firms, by the way, I'll just go, I show this to people this is the Harrison's law firm tiers. And I'll just show you this real quickly. Harrison's got, 1, 2, let me just see, I go up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1 means they cannot afford big bills. Like that you're talking about individuals. 2 means they have a little bit more money to spend, but not much. 3 means yes, they can afford bills, but not too big. And then 4 means you can start sending bigger bills. These are your AmLaw 100 law firms and 200s. And 5 mean nobody cares, like for the most part. Like they just want the best possible freaking work they can afford. So you send you might, so you build 2+ hours on a matter, people are going to be like, like mad, so, I mean, I'm not saying that as an example, but these clients are very cost sensitive. So this is why you want to go to work. If you want to get really good experience, the reason you want to go to work at bigger firms is because you can really dive deep into these matters. And that makes you a better attorney because you spot more issues. Here, you got to just rush through stuff. You can't, you can't do anything. You have to just rush through the work because the client's not going to pay. They don't have the money. Here, you got to go pretty fast too. But as you get up, so that's all. So you can't bill small clients a lot of money. No. Would you pay if you were a small client or a small business? Like that's what small firms are. So the way to go to big firms are, is to really, to make sure that the reason to go to big firms is so you can dive deep into stuff. Okay. Okay, so this is just a question from someone. Oh, I like that hot iron. That's kind of cool that showed up. It didn't show up in the Q&A. That little, looks like a hot iron there. Okay, so I wish I had this years ago. Yes, this would happen October 22, so that's good. So the person's only been out of work for 4 months. I mean, that's pretty good. And this person said they got things through a personal network. Yes, you get jobs through personal networks. So let me talk to you about, everyone about personal networks real quickly. How do you get jobs through personal networks? Just the same way you get business. You call everyone you know and you say, how you doing? That's it. And you let them talk. And then if they ask you how you're doing, you tell them how you're doing. And then maybe at some point you say, maybe, I'm looking for a job, but that's it. Or I'm just out of work right now, hope you're doing well. And then they think of you if something comes up. That's how you use your personal networks to get a job. That works. I could give a freaking seminar on this, but that's it. Call your friends, call everyone you know. This person got a job that way. 3 jobs. Or how are you doing? Anybody you can call. How you doing? That's it. I'm fine. How about you? I mean, that's really it. I'm fine. What's going on? Chat so much. If job comes up, fine. Job comes up, fine. Just I'm looking for something, not to, just got time on my hands. Thought I'd check on you. That's it. And people, all of a sudden, you've got, if you call, most people don't know 100 to 200 people. If you've got the guts to get in touch with 200 people, you will get a job very quickly doing this. Most people don't do it, but this is a very simple way to do it. That's it. You just, I could use all the freaking data science in the world, but I can't compete with this. This is your network. Why not use that? By the way, people that get recommended jobs by other people that are, somehow like that. It's one thing if the person's anyway, but people, there's more trust involved many times when that happens, and that can help you quite a bit. It can help you get a job better and faster if you're able to talk to people in that way. So, if you have recommendations. So think, I did a thing here. One time I don't know, we had like 20 or 25 recruiters in our company. And this is, before this company became out of a platform company. And those recruiters, I remember at one point in time, it was like every single one of them, like had been a referral from another person that was already in the company. Like they were all, they were all people that had been referred by someone that knew them or someone else that knew them from somewhere else. And that's just how it worked. And so, and I was more likely to hire them because I trusted them and I would be able to invest in them. And I trusted them with their data and the candidates. And I was happy. I shared that bond of this other person. And so this is how law firms think too. This is how humans think. We're tribal, like people, like in nature, like not nature, but before farming and houses and social groups of people are limited to, I don't know what the number is anthropologically, but they're limited to a certain number and they don't get very big. It might be like 20 or 30 or 50 or 100. I don't know what the number is, but it's because people don't trust people, outsiders, and it's very difficult for outsiders to get in. So anytime you're referred by someone, that can be very helpful. And it depends on the referral. I want to make a couple of points because a lot of people think, well, I know someone in this law firm, and that's important if it's a partner with business. But a lot of times, if it's just an associate, you don't know what's happening. That associate could be on the way out. I mean, who knows? And but this particular thing, way of getting, can be very helpful. What we just talked about in terms of these networks, okay, like this partner just talked about, or this attorney. Okay, how can candidates negotiate a better offer when the firms are quite vague? I NIDE salary based on billing, a big international law firm, rate unspecified on matters. Okay, so anytime someone, and I don't know if this big law firm is probably one of my clients, so I'm sorry to them if this gets back to them, but anytime someone's vague about something, they're going to screw you. So that's just what it is. Anytime something's vague, you're going to get screwed. So, and again, I apologize for using this kind of language. I don't like using that language on a call. Any vagueness or unwillingness to commit, this again can save you, could change your life if you understand this. It took me forever to learn this. Anytime someone's vague with you, they're going to screw you almost 99% of the time. Now, sometimes they may be vague and they might be a good person and they just don't really know. And they're, and so, but if they're calculated enough to be vague, they're going to screw you in the future because they can say, well, we didn't commit to this. We didn't, so no, you need to get a commitment. And if this is the kind of freaking crap you're getting from then you're going to get screwed. So I'm sorry, but that's just how it works. Unless someone's willing to commit to something, then it's never in your favor, and you're going to get burned. So it's just how it is. They're always going to do less than is expected because it's in their self-interest too, and they didn't commit to something. So I'm sorry to put it that way, but I really would urge anyone where there's any form of vagueness to be very careful and get people, the reason people always say put things in writing is because if you don't, when push comes to shove, people are just going to take advantage of you. So, law firms will always do things with partners. They'll be like, oh, we're going to guarantee you this for 2 years. But then after the person's there and they've committed and they've got all this, the law firm has their infrastructure on them, then they'll come back with different things and it won't be in the person's interest. And, so long-term commitments and things are better than anything. And, I'll tell you what's vague is like getting married, if you're 100% sure you're marrying the right person, but without some sort of agreement. No one does that that's in business. Some people do, but, vagueness is not good, so you have to be extremely careful. Like, wow. Think of all the people that get burned in divorces and businesses without contracts. And, but if something's vague, you have to be very careful. Okay, I'm an attorney with almost 3 years of experience, 2 to 3 years clerking for the San Francisco Superior Court, and 11 months as a contractor with a tech company in data privacy compliance. Okay, that's a good, I integrated regulatory administrator and have regularly planned to go into government, but now I have wide administrators to firms. What advice would you give for finding those jobs that you said aren't posted? Okay, so with your particular practice area, that's a competitive practice area right now. And working in San Francisco is very competitive because there's a lot of big firms with people doing data privacy and compliance. So the way to get a job for you would be to work to try to get positions that aren't posted in markets outside of big cities. So San Francisco is like the center of that type of work in the world. So why would you? Now you may be able to get a job at a company doing that, which I think a startup and everything, which I think is definitely would be pretty easy because there's so many of them. But if you want to work in a law firm, then you're going to have to go into smaller markets, I would think, and that could be something as simple as a growing market like Reno or which isn't too far from you, but someplace where there's not a lot of people with your training and skill. That's all. So it's not too hard. And anybody that has that sort of information would be helpful. Do you ever advise and recruit for public entities? Sure, of course I can. This question. Yes, of course, public entities definitely need help, and I can help them advise and recruit for them. And I will have Jared put his email in the chat if that's something you're interested in. Let me just see here. And you can email Jared. Let me just make sure I have all the questions. Wow. Well, I think that's it. Thank you, everybody, for being on this webinar today. I think one of the things I would say is I just want to, if you're new, welcome to this. But again, very smart being on this and learning this sort of information. Most people don't have this information. So I would say you're probably in the top 1/10 of 1%, or even better, top 1/1000 of 1%, listening to this and sitting through a long webinar like this, which frankly is a lot. I mean, it's a lot of information. These webinars, by the way, are posted after, but disciplining yourself to sit down and watch this and with everyone here. The live chats, I put that on every week so you guys can chat with each other. And I'll try to make it more interactive in the future. But I certainly am very impressed with anyone that has the ability to be self-reflective and learn this stuff, because it can change your life. So I just express my gratitude for allowing me to help you have a happier life and be better in the profession. So thank you, and I will be back again next week. So thanks again.